People have become lovers of blood. A society is supposed to be for the betterment of humanity. A society is supposed to be that which carries other people that are weak. A society is only as strong as the weakest people in that society. But today, can you say the Nigerian society cares for the very weak amongst us? I must tell you, when a society does not cater to the weak, the strong becomes an overlord and the weak becomes suppressed. Once the weak becomes suppressed, society starts to malfunction because the strength of every society is dependent on the strength of the weak and poor. Any society that is so hard on the weak and poor is a society that does not respect God. Any society that is hard on the oppressed is a society that does not respect God. Because the Bible talks about the fact that we'll always have weak ones amongst us. We'll always have poor ones among us. We'll always have oppressed ones amongst us. So it is incumbent on us to be able to take care of the weak, the oppressed, and the poor. But today, we have become a society where the weak does not have a voice. That's why a lady did a video complaining about her problems as an NYSC member. And she's told to shut up. And she's told to go and remove the video. She's weak. If she had money to buy the eggs, to buy her data in the supermarket, she wouldn't complain. But she's feeling the pinch. The lady said something that struck me. So this is the first time I'm going to do this adulting and parenting thing. Probably she was under the care of her parents all this while. But NYC is the very first time she has to be on her own and spend on herself. And she see that it doesn't just make sense. And when she complains about it, the funny thing is, people that are supposed to listen to her cry then ignore her and tell her to shut up. A society that tells the poor to shut up when they complain is a society that demeans the poor. A society that tells the poor to shut up when they complain is an ungodly society. Because there will always be the poor and the weak amongst us. There will always be the people that cannot speak up for themselves. I always tell my God, I said, God, all the influence you have given me in this my media job is to be able to speak up for the weak. That's why I post pictures of people that are downtrodden when they are down, when they feel out. So a society that demeans the poor, that thinks solving the problem of poverty is just about sharing rice and food that they themselves, the elites, cannot eat. It's a society that demeans the poor. A society that thinks that the solution to every problem is to neglect the poor. is a society that will never grow. A society that use the poverty of people as optics without providing solutions is a society that will never grow. So when you have a society like this, it becomes an ungodly society. And when you have an ungodly society, you can hardly have growth. A society where the weak amongst us are killed because they have nothing to defend themselves, while the rich amongst us are taking all the police officers to guard themselves. It's no society. A society is only as strong as the most defenseless people in that society. So if the most defenseless people, like the farmers in that society, is killed, then that society does not have the fear of God. A society where people die because of malaria, because of illnesses that the likes of Ross had discovered remedies to over 100 years ago, but because their government fails them, that's not society. If that society continues that way, then it shows that they lack discipline and they lack the capacity to help the very poor amongst us. Who is the society? We are the society. Today, I ask you, how many people are you helping? How many times have you brought peace to your own society? What have you done to go against evil? Do you benefit from the chaos of your society, or you speak true to power? How many hearts have you healed? How many people's joy have you brought back? How many people's lives have you impacted? As a leader, was it under you that society got destroyed? Or was it under you that things got better? Who are you? What have you done for a fellow human being? The truth has to be said. If you can't speak up, then nobody will speak up for you. And that's why recently, about 12 midnight, somebody sent me a message. Although I felt, wow, what's happening? Why am I being called at 12 midnight? He sent me a message as regards somebody that put out some allegations against a local government chairman of Kushofe. But he told me that after the person put out the allegations, he's been arrested. So he said they are trying to procure the bail. I don't know where that is. But as I got the message, I called another friend of mine as a local government chairman, and I said he should look into this. I will also make that appeal today. And I think I said it in the course of the week on VOP. Now, whoever is close to Kushofe local government chairman should please tell him that Rufai is begging on behalf of society. That please, it's not easy for somebody to be in anywhere. I'm not saying he's the one that did it. I don't even know if he did it or not. So please do not get me wrong. But the reason why that person sent me that message was because there's been a back and forth between that person and the local government chairman. Please. How do we now build a good society? Please give me one moment. Let me pick up the phone at which you'll be able to call in. Please. How do we now build that good society? Just 1 minute, please. How do we now build that good society? Just 1 minute, please. How do we now build that good society? That society that wants to stand the test of time. In building that society, it starts with the recognition of the problems in that society. There are many problems in that society. At first, we don't love each other. Two, there are lots of thieving politicians. Three, there's a followership class that is also very selfish. Four, we need to bring about community love. And if you want to call me, you can call me on 0818 099 1991. We're going to be doing maintenance from 10 o'clock. So the show is going to end by 10 today. So, how do we build society? The truth has to be said. We build society by number one, building inter-society love. How do we build love amongst people in society? By telling them in the media things like this. Building the love. Telling them that you are only as strong as your neighbor. If your neighbor's life is not good and you think you have money, your life is at risk. We must be able to speak against evil politicians and babasokwe. We must not live in a society where one man feels he's God and he takes decisions at the expense of other people. We must remove tribalism in our narrative. Everybody is your brother, everybody is your sister. Let's stop talking down on any tribe. Hello, how are you?
Yeah, good morning, sir.
Morning, what's your name?
My name is Vincent. I'm calling from Abbott.
Speak up, okay. We must remove tribalism. You see, tribalism is a tool that our politicians use to divide us. See, all of our politicians are from different tribes, but they get along. But when it's during the election, they use tribe and religion to divide us. Today, Mr. Rufai is now calling on the likes of Peter Obi. They should come and join them in SDP. The same Peter Obi he did cast aspersions against, leading up to the last election. So you can see that politicians, this thing called tribal conflict, does not exist once their interests align. His son was saying the other day that Mr. Peter Obi is not such a bad person. Hello, how are you?
Yeah, good morning, sir.
Morning, great to have you.
Sir?
Great to have you. Go ahead.
Okay. Sorry, I was having a little net problem before. Please, I don't know if this is like a consigned message or a general contribution to the topic that you are speaking on today. Actually, I know what you're talking about, but I have a lot to say about this current situation that we are in right now. Take it as like who is frustrated, who is trying to decide between good and evil, between being a good person or a bad person. Someone who is genuinely concerned about his country that doesn't know what to do at this point. It's left with little to no choice as to what is going on. Now, this is where I'm coming from. Imagine a graduate, because usually when someone speaks up, a lot of people or a lot of Nigeria want to pin it on his laziness or the fact that the person is not schooled or is not educated. So he's not supposed to be speaking. You don't have a certificate, so what do you expect? Where do you expect to work? But I am a graduate of telecommunication engineering. I graduated with BSc. So yeah, I've served my country, I've done my NYSC, and I can still tell you now that even at this point, I am struggling a lot, And as a youth in my late 30s, in my late 20s, that is 28 years, it is very, very appalling for a country of brilliant minds like ours that to be we are still here talking. I don't want to be disrespectful, but I think that it seems now that everybody around our president is either deceiving him or blatantly not telling him the truth. This is a country where I believe the president has or is paying, which of course our money and our resources is paying a lot of how do they call them again, special advisors, and it seems like he's blind to the suffering of the people that he is leading. You tell us, you come outside to tell us that we should be patient with you, but then we see your son, who is also a youth, running around in big convoy that can feed a family for 200 days, if I'm not mistaken, in just one trip. Now, your wife come out to tell us that we should go back to the farm. You're showing us vegetables online during your campaign, but for a week, just on one trip. And you are telling us that things are bad and that your policies that you are putting in place are going to, try to elevate the hunger in the land. Now, I want to put one question to the Mr. President. This is not a complaint coming from someone who, let's say, an opposition party. I don't have anything to do with who is there. Even though it's a blind man that is there, I am happy so far the person is doing something right. It's not about Peter Obi, it's not about Atiku, it's not about anybody. He is there. And if he wants to prove to us that position that he's holding is not stolen, because this is one attitude of people who steal. When you steal something that does not belong to you, you misuse it. If it is rightfully yours and it is righteously gained by you in a legitimate process, you will want to maintain it. For example, Mr. Rufai, I'm very, very sure that with how much you are working for your car, you will not drive it. Sorry, you are working for your money. If you end up buying a car, you will not drive it anyhow. So now the president at this point is behaving as if he saw that position. It's not. I'm not making allegations, but if it is something that he actually need or he actually did through the right process, I believe that he wants to do more.
So you're saying you should do better. My concern now is, my friend, my brother, do you have a job now? My most important priority is how can we make your life easy? And we practice what we preach. You can, if you heard the show many times, you see how we've raised money for people and we're giving people jobs. Apart from politicians you've talked about, my most important concern is, do you have a job? Are you okay? Can we call on our listeners all around the world to please see if they can give you a job? And you tell us your CV and you put your number out there so that let's help you. Because I believe if we can help you first, then life is better. That's why I want to help millions of people if I had the means. That's why we build library in the village, we build healthcare center, we are giving free AI training, we are doing so many things. We are crowdfunding here for people that I need. Are you okay? Do you need a job?
I am not okay, and I need a job.
Okay.
And to be honest with you, about the job thing, sorry, I don't need to say this. The thing now is, an average graduate in Nigeria is not scared to go and look for a job. For example, if you are staying in Abuja where I'm staying, the chances are you want to be living in places like Maraba or all these outskirts of places, in places that you cannot even make it to your job on time. You have to go there because you are scared of the house.
Okay, we have heard the concerns, but let's talk about you now. So you need a job.
So I don't have a job. I need a job.
You need a job. You are a telecom engineering graduate. Can you call your number, please?
Okay, my number is 0816.
0816.
Yes, 916.
916. 7874. Your name is Sadiq. Call the number again. Please, if you have a telecom job for a telecom graduate, he needs a job. 0816.
916.
7874. 0816. 916.
Yeah, 7874.
7874. Please, if you can send me a text on this number with your name, your details, your qualification, I will post it on my social media page that is close to 2 million in following today. At least if we can get you a job, I'm content. It's going to be well. We all need to come together to help each other. Hello, how are you?
Good morning, my big brother.
Morning, how are you, sir?
Bless you, sir. Happy
Happy Sunday, Manje.
Thank you very much for your support.
How is our prison ministry going? We have given people eyeglasses in the prisons, right? In Abuja.
Yes. On Friday we were unable to go because I lost one of our colleagues.
Oh, sorry about that.
So, but on Monday we'll be at Kuje prison to continue because the total lockup of inmates they are up to 8,000. So
So are we also doing eye tests for the inmates in Kuje
yes,
prison?
we are doing eye tests and we are giving eyeglasses to them, but we are through with the staff.
Okay, we are doing eye tests and we are doing giving eyeglasses to inmates in Kuje.
Yes.
Okay.
So that will begin by 8 a.m. tomorrow morning. And so my big brother, I want to use this opportunity because I met the controller of the FCT commandant, Mr. Bosno Ajibogun. I told him about he was so happy and he appreciates your support and your encouragement. So he said that you use this video to tell you that he will be happy if you can invite him to your live program so that he has one or two things to say.
No problem. No problem. You just send me his detail. We'll call him. And maybe one of these days we'll put him on the radio show. The radio is to make impact on the life of people. That's why we set up VOP Lagos, VOP Abuja. But Abuja is coming back on stream. We've been having some challenges, but it's not easy because these are radio stations are self-funded. We are not taking any money from any politician. That's why we have it in Lagos, we have it in Abuja, we also have it on my YouTube, in my Instagram page and Facebook page. We have not taken 1 naira for any, and we're not going to take anyone because that's why we're objective and I can say it the way it is. And I can call out politicians. So it's all self-funded. Kudos to our great funders, our partners, our chairman, and people on the board. And I'm also on the board of this station. So, but most importantly, kudos to my great man and great friend and brother, Mr. Ifeanyi. There is a major funder, of this outfit. So it's not be easy for us. So, but we are finally bringing VOP Abuja back on stream. We've had some challenges, for some while, but that will also be back on stream. So
I will send these details to you.
no problem.
And again, is that because the challenge is that under the Cycle of Hope and Support Foundation, reaching out to those most of the inmates, they have glaucoma. So, but we are trusting God by His grace of God to be able to make a lot of impact. So, and once again, I want to use this medium to use your platform to people who are patient us if they can take two more in terms of buying drugs.
Yes.
Yes, because there are about 10 of them that are on death row. They have been indoor for years, so they are having challenges with their high defense. Some are having photophobia.
Okay. Thank you so much. Thank you. Send me all the details I will put on social media again. We'll get help for people. Those are the things we do. So, like I said, I'm no politician. I can't do it all alone. But I partner with a lot of people. Like I've been partnering with Icon of Hope for over a year. I've been partnering with Mr. Manje Pharmaceutical before Icon of Hope was set up. It was under me that he got the inspiration to now set up Icon of Hope. We've been raising money. We started with outreaches around Abuja. He helps me coordinate Abuja area. Even him recently had a problem. They sent them out of their estate. They had to relocate. But we thank God, we also reached out to people. Some people, gave him support, small support and love. So now he's tackling the prison ministry. So those are the things we do. Let's do for each other. Hello, how are you? So we are not saying we can do it or we have it all. But let's do for each other. That's just it. Let's do for each other. So we are doing the prison ministry job in Abuja. He's handling that. I'm also looking for more hands that will also go to areas of the core north. We're also doing so many works there. I'm also part of 1 million teachers where we do a lot of education training and all of that for teachers in the core north. We have a teachers grade system. In fact, we also have a big project coming up because I'm part of 1 million teachers. My friend Akim Subao is also funding that. We've raised some investments. And there's a possibility that very soon, one of the first teachers' village will be built in Nigeria, where teachers can get a chance to go and retool and relearn. I also did help some teachers in my village, Odogulu, get on the 1 million teacher platform. So we train them how to be better teachers. We also hold training for them. So we are taking every approach possible to live society. The AI training is still on. A lot of people watching here might have benefited from the AI training. We have over 3,000 people registered. More people are registering. But please, the AI people that are partnering with me on the AI, what they are telling me is that a lot of you don't read your emails. So they will send you the link for the day of training, but because you don't read your emails, it's a big problem. Nigerians, please learn to read email. So these are some of the things. We don't just talk, but we can do also. Somebody say, I'm a director at Peak Height Montessori teacher. I train Montessori teacher educators. Can I help train teachers about Montessori methods? Yes, please. I need you. I need you. I need you. If you want to do it, you're on Instagram, please send me a form that people can register to be part of your training. You can do the training for them online so that it's not going to cost us any money. And I will publicize it. And I will get the people that can come. So please, this director of Peak Heights Montessori Teachers Academy, send me like a Google Doc registration so that we'll be able to train. You'll be able to get it and people can register, just like I did with the AI people. If I tell you the AI people story, very interesting story. We met in the train station and they told me what they did. The lady told me that she's a doctorate degree holder, University of Leicester. She does machine learning. She has gone to train also at the Alan Turing Institute. She even won an award recently, Dr. Mary. In fact, they are coming to Nigeria next month. I will also see if I can put them in the air, on the air. And I said, you know what, let's do it. No, sir, please don't send me your WhatsApp number. All you need to do is that go to my Instagram, send me a direct message, DM, with the form that you want people to start the training with. Or, okay, let me see if I will take a picture of your WhatsApp number and say people should go and meet you if they want to do. I will put it on my Twitter right away. But also send me that DM so that we can take it up from there and you can give people. You see, life is about value. How much value can we give people? That's what I see. I can complain, yes, about our bad leaders, but I also look at the things I can do with the best available cost. So it's about value. Okay, I got it. I'm going to put it on my page and just say for your Montessori teacher training, I'm going to put it on my X now. For your Montessori teacher training, call that number. So let's empower one another. Let's build value. Let's build resilience. And we can say the truth here on VOP because we don't collect anything from anybody. We are not beholden to any politician. 0818 099 1991. 0818 099 1991. 0818 099 1991. 0818 099 1991. Sorry, I caught that call because I want to post that post. So I put the post out there. I think they are saying it's an error or retry. Okay, let me take calls first. Hello, how are you? Hello. Hi, good morning. Where you go?
That's about the growth and development of Nigeria. So first of all, we have like the challenges of Nigeria goes across different areas. Us as the citizens also doing our thing.
Mm-hmm.
So part of the recent experience I had is because I'm finding this because I'm not really feeling so well, and I had to go to the hospital yesterday. So the arrangement with the corporate class as regards when it's HMO and when you have to be out of pocket, the treatment is just different. I wonder why. Because I'm using,
Just
for
for
some obvious reasons, you know that the medication you're giving me would not handle this case. Okay, I understand I'm using my HMO. So let me know that because I'm using my HMO, you're able to treat me properly rather than giving me treatment that doesn't really solve my issue. So eventually, because I've once worked in the healthcare sector, I just have to go find a area and treat myself in a private clinic and be out of pocket eventually. So these are the issues we just have to deal with as Nigerians. We have arrangements that doesn't really favor anybody, to be very honest. And then we also have to deal with governments who do not really pay any attention or any concern to our health. So it's just a very sorrowful and a pity condition. So imagine that. So like I do that to them. For people who are unable to afford some of these things for themselves, how do they cope? That's why you have things that are deaths that are very, 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 very avoidable, just killing people in Nigeria, and it's a very sad thing. And it's so sad that who do you want to call out in this situation when you have a government that is reckless and is not paying attention to the needs of citizens? How do you then expect a private institution?
Thank you so much for that. I mean, I've heard those concerns and we're going to amplify it. Hello, how are you?
Hello, good morning, sir.
Morning, what's your name?
My name is Chris. I'm calling from Michigan, sir.
Great to have you.
Please, I also need your help, sir, please.
What do you need help for?
Okay, I used to sell a car in small store. I used to collect it and sell, then return the money. Just because I don't have capital. So I want to stand on my own now, please. I don't know how you can help me out. I really need to stand on my own.
Okay, so you need an investor. That's what it is. So what we're gonna do is give out your number, and we'll see if we can seek investors for you. Give out your number. What's your number?
090.
090 63 66 66 83 49. Okay. So what you need is an investor. We need to get you investors, people that will come invest in your ideas, invest in your business. Hello, how are you?
Morning, Rufai.
Morning. Great. Where are you calling from? I can't hear you properly, sir.
Can you hear me now?
Yeah, where are you calling from?
Okay, I'm calling from Enugu this morning.
Good to have you. Go ahead.
Okay, well, I really want to thank you for all the things you've been doing and making use of your time judiciously. I want to see your name in the gold as long as Nigeria is confined. Because you don't leave this life like it was. And every little time you have to make use of it judiciously because what matters is according to your words is what are the legacies you left behind you, what do people talk about you when you leave the earth. It's all about how long you live, it's how far you live in the earth. So please, my brother, keep the good work going. Nigeria has become a crime scene in a nation some of us who are in this country, this morning you are talking about something. Somebody came to your comment section and write, what has the people, how much did the people pay you? You can imagine such a thing. These are the same people. Okay, the woman that called this NYSC student, this NYSC member, and was threatening If she not, if the country gets better, why should her family benefit from that? This is the problem we have. We are living in a country where the people living in a country are really enjoying the suffering because of the peanuts they are getting from these criminals. They store the money, they lavish your future, they lavish the future of your generation, and give you peanuts, and you keep defending them. So tell me how they are going to change. We need a reorientation in this country. Then people, they are weaponized poverty that people feel comfortable being poor.
And that's the word. And that's the word. They weaponize poverty, which is deliberate by the politicians. They know why they are doing it. They know why they don't want people to succeed. But we are what I'm trying to do is I'm trying to democratize prosperity. And that's what this show you see I'm doing on radio on VOP, I've done it in Lagos alone over 10 years, close to 10 years now. I mean since 2012, 2013. Where I impact people on my first religion, then this one that I'm part of, VOP. One that I've come to realize that they deliberately democratize poverty. And not today I've been raising money for people. We've paid for surgeries, done all sorts. I mean, a lot of people that know me from Road Back, they know me before I even came to realize. See, they deliberately democratize poverty. And people that say all those things against me, in fact, I even feel pity for them. If I have the chance, I will also help them. Because God said we should help everybody. So how can we democratize prosperity while our leaders are trying to democratize poverty?
I think
that's just it.
What's the name again? Former president, right? The guy from the radio. I think she said it all. The last time I listened to say, don't get it from these people. Reject them. Reject the peanut they are giving you. Reject the bag of rice they are giving you. Reject the bag of things they are giving you. Reject that peanut they are giving you as a food. Tell them to go. Chase them away with their taste. When you chase them away, trust me, they will not that you don't want them.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you so much.
Thank you so much for that. Chase them away, reject what they are giving you. Because they are only giving you because they need your vote. And please don't be fooled. Your vote counts. If your votes don't count, they will not give you things for you to vote for them. Hello, how are you as we wrap up?
Hello, good morning, Mr. Rufai.
Morning, yeah.
I love it. You are doing I'm coming from Lagos. You're doing a great work.
God be praised.
God bless you.
Yeah.
God bless you. Did you receive a text line?
What?
You don't receive a text message on this your line.
Yeah, I don't know. Okay, you can send me. You can call me to the number, but I'm sorry, I don't know how to navigate that text messaging thing now.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. First of all, I think our leaders and security guards to get up because I listened to that was bad already. And I think, like I used to say, the Bible is not needs to have some terrible leaders. Not like when it was the leader to commit against by sleeping with somebody's wife. And God is used Prophet Nathan to back up to him. You know the story. Now, our spiritual leaders are giving quite a lot. Can't they speak to power? Let's all of God. The way you are going, like me, I must say this one was quite inspiring, quite encouraging. And the way you presented it was very more. So why can't we talk to them? They are human beings. Let our leaders call them and tell them that this place, we are here to help each other. This place is not a planet above. People come and go. But you will only be remembered by what you have done. So I'm encouraging our leaders, just like Ahab. Ahab was like a terror. And the Elijah confronted him. All the foreign and the prophets of Baal were able to succumb to the superior power of God. That is what we need to be doing. Let us come together and fight with our common enemies. Because if we leave them, I'm afraid the way it's going, we don't know where we are heading to. That is just the truth.
Thank you so much. Thank you. I really appreciate you. So we need to all speak truth to power. Some projects we are still doing. All of our projects at the Oseni Center, the AI training is still there. And also, this teacher, please send that detail to my Instagram. Send it to my DM so that I can push it out there so that for the Montessori teacher training. What's going to happen is because we are closing by 10 today, because we're going to be doing a service upgrade of our equipment, I will play some excerpts of this analysis on the budget, but next week I'll play it. It was done by our very good friends and partners at Budget. Thank you guys so much. God bless you. I'm seeing more calls coming, but I can't take more calls. So please, thank God, play some of the excerpts of, the Twitter spaces on the budget that I sent to you. Thank you so much. We'll play that till 10, and then we'll go for some service upgrade. I think BOP will be live back on the air by like the 5 o'clock hour in the evening for service upgrade on terrestrial. But I think probably we can also see if we can continue programming on VOP 90.3 on YouTube. So there are many VOPs. VOP 90.3 FM on YouTube. That's one. Number two, then we have VOP 90.3 FM on terrestrial radio in Lagos. Then we have VOP 90.3, which we're just putting back on air on terrestrial radio in Abuja. That's also on YouTube. But once we get that back on there, we're going to get a lot done. Bless you. As you go, sweet God will bless you. His favor will shine on you. His face will shine on you. I will pray for those that are ill in their bodies. Any sickness, God will heal you of it in Jesus' name. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen. Bless you guys.
Party leaders. One of it is that they were not happy with the choice of the running mate, Nollywood actress Funke Akindele. A lot of them wanted somebody else, and in fact, I think Chief Bode George said the party had agreed that they were going to have Gbadebo Road's Bible just before he left for the Labour Party. They were going to have him as the running mate to Jandor so that they can consolidate their numbers and consolidate the party. You were the director of campaign and strategy. What was the strategy behind having Funke Akindele as the running mate Jandor instead of maybe any other person like Gbadebo Road's Bible?
Well, maybe that shouldn't even be the question. Maybe the question initially should be, maybe the question should be like, okay, why was that, did that actually happen? Did the party actually come together to say, okay, we wanted road driver, or was it Chief Bode George and a few lay elders that said we wanted road driver? Again, like I said, I didn't support Jandor for the primaries. No, I did not. I actually supported another person that is actually in the APC now. I was the director general for that campaign. But the bottom line again is this: if you actually had an agreement, to say, okay, this is the person we're going to pick as your running mate, will that person come to the grounds for the primaries to want to contest? You see, because Jandor also has openly come out to say, no, I never start to agree with you. Chief Bode George has said it several times that, look, no, we said you are going to pick Gbadebo Road's rival. But as at that time, why Gbadebo actually sent a letter to to Jandor, because I saw the letter, I was not part of that team then. I saw the letter late after, maybe a few months after. Actually, so while he sent a letter to Jandor applying to be governorship, the deputy governorship candidate, he had actually gone to Labour Party, because all this came out from documents at the court. He had actually gone to Labour Party. So again, we need to clearly look at this. Again, was the agreement to bring Gbadebo Road's rival, was it a consensus? No, it wasn't. Even if Chief Bode George had agreed and a few leaders had agreed with Jandor, Dr. Bukelu didn't sit with them to agree, because I had a conversation with him. He's my father. Chief Bode George is also my father, too. So Mama Aduke Maina didn't sit with them to say, yes, this is it. Same thing, the Duartes, the Adedosumus, did this. Nobody sat. So when you're saying, yes, we are the party, even the state chairman was aware. So we need to define who the party is. Who actually is the party? So I'm not saying Chief Body Judge didn't agree with Badebo with Jandor because I wasn't privy and I can't say that. But the bottom line is that was that a consensus? We have the highest ranking party official in Lagos. Was it part of the arrangement? So all these things we need to look at it very well.
All right, but the choice of the choice of Funke Akindele, was that a consensus decision too, or simply that of the candidate?
That's what I'm saying. No, it's not. That was the consensus. So it goes to show how fragmented the party was, and it still is.
All right. So,
Jandor choice.
So Jandor has left the party. I understand that some other leaders of the party are begging him to rejoin. Would you advise him to heed to their advice?
Well, I don't know. You're a journalist. I'm not. I don't know which people are begging him to return, but I'm sure that I don't see Jandor coming back to PDP, not in a hurry. Then secondly, is PDP even ready to accept Jandor? Not the way PDP is now. So I don't even see that happening. Not in the near future.
So what's next for the PDP? Because everybody is saying the PDP experienced its worst results in Lagos State in the 2023 elections. Yet the issues that resulted in that have not been resolved. So what's next for the PDP? You are staying back in the PDP. What do you intend to do to resolve those issues within the PDP?
Results in 2023, and I'm happy with that, with this choice of words, your choice of words, not that Jandor. You see, some people are saying Jandor's got the low. No, it's not about Jandor. It's actually the PDP, because even it's not even it didn't stop at the governorship election thing. Even the presidential election, PDP scored just 75,000. So if anybody is castigating Jandor, then we should look also at the presidential election results. So PDP is the problem, not candidates. Candidates, yes. Leaders, yes. But the PDP is the umbrella. It's the party that is going into elections, not the candidate. Lee Adams, even if I'm the governorship candidate today, I am not, my name is not going to be on the ballot. It's actually going to be People's Democratic Party. Yes, now to your question, there's a major problem. And I think the problem is partly caused by the national. A lot of people have looked at certain issues. You know the funny thing, this thing has been on. In 2015, after the elections, 2015, that's some 9-10 years from now, I had a team of young people then, including this same Gbadebo Revival and a few others. We went on a fact-finding mission on what were the causes, both the causes of the issues in the party. And we came up with solutions to almost everything that is happening now. We came up with the problems and the solutions. A lot of the leaders said, I'll use this set of words in Yoruba, and then I'll translate it. Taloron Inche, who sent you on this errand? So apparently they wanted it. They wanted the PDP to continue. And if you look at it, the PDP has lost grounds. But it was slightly easier then because there were patronage is from at the national prior to 2015. But immediately PDP lost the national at the national level. A lot of the PDP gladiators have left. Some that have not left have been accused openly of being bedfellows with the ruling party. So that's one problem. The second one is this. We need to go back and look at the way we pick our candidates. Picking candidates is half of the problems in PDP. The choice of candidates, when somebody will sit at the national level and say, okay, pick this person, pick because it's my cousin. And
all right. Honorable Adams. We would like you to
actually gone out of their way.
Honorable Adams, we understand that the network is not smooth enough, and so maybe we would have to resort to an alternate arrangement so that we can hear you vividly and clearly. So please just hold on by. We'll try to reconnect with Honorable Adams.
Zibum Shelter is that real estate company steadily poised to give you that desired dream home, business location, recreational place, and more with the necessary and relevant documentation. Zibum Shelter has plots of lands in Mowe, Ekpe, Ikorodu, Owode, and after Aton. Acquire a Zibum Shelter land at Owode Ilaro with as low as 250,000 naira, at Mowe or Fada at 800,000 naira, and as low as 1 million naira for half a plot at Ikorodu, all of which can be paid in installments for 3 months. Zibum Shelter has got you covered with that property and price range to suit you. Zibum Shelter is at Office 20, New Edition Plaza, number 20 Jagumolu Street, Bariga, Lagos State. Call 081-377-51223 or 090-409-99213. Email zibumenterprises@gmail.com. At Zibum Shelter, you are offered peace of mind. Call today.
All right, you're still listening to the follow-up on Adami Mogo 93.1 FM. All right, Honorable Adams, the former state youth leader of the People's Democratic Party, and well, most recently the director for campaign and strategy of the Jandor governorship bid in 2023, is my guest this morning. I've been speaking with him. Honorable, we have a bit of a feedback from your end. I don't know if there's a way you can put that off so that we can hear you clearly. I think I can hear myself. Okay, all right. So, Honorable, just before we went on that quick break, you were breaking it down to us as to what needs to be fixed within the People's Democratic Party. You said the first time that, well, a lot of people had left the party and that is a serious cause of concern. I think the second point you were making was that you need to review, your party needs to review the process for selecting candidates. So maybe you should pick it up from there and continue with your trail of thoughts.
Yes, thank you. Absolutely, the PDP needs to review the way we pick our candidates. Nobody should sit somewhere and think, okay, yes, this person is this, we are going to share this, we are going to have Dr. Bukelu's group, we are going to have the bodyguards group. Let us have a free and fair, primaries. Once we have a free and fair primaries, then definitely there won't be issues to resolve, or there will be very minimal issues to resolve. Even our congresses, look at the way the congresses are going. The way the congresses are going, it's actually a recipe for failure. Look at the way everybody is just doing the way they want, doing things the way they want. So it was at the national level. The national level, once the national level is the way it is at the moment, then I don't see any state level, especially states without governors, to guide or to sit on top of things then it's still going to continue the way it is. Again, the greed of individuals should not be taken, or the desire of individuals should not be taken as the desire of the collective. No, it's not. The PDP used to be a very democratic party, a party where you can become anything. But now it is not so anymore. It is the level of infighting, the level of indiscipline. That's why I've never attended any reconciliation meeting. How can you ask me to come and reconcile when the issues that are on ground that have led to the reasons why we are reconciling are still left without being attended to? Some people engage in anti-party activities. Some people engaged in gross disobedience of the constitution of the constitution of the party. And you are not talking about that. You are telling us to come and reconcile. I don't have any time to waste anymore. Yes, I keep saying it.
Does that mean that you've lost hope in your party?
Sorry?
Does that mean that you have lost all hopes in your party, reclaiming any form of power?
That what? Sorry.
I said, does that mean that you've lost any hope in your party, the PDP, regaining any form of power?
No, 2027 is still far away. We can resolve this. If I had lost hope, I would have gone to my house, or I would have moved out of the party. I have not lost hope. I still believe PDP can do what they can do, what they are expected to do, but provided, look, you must enforce boundaries. If you do enforce boundaries, you're just inviting anarchy. You are inviting chaos. And that's what is happening. This one person will claim this today, the other one will claim secretary tomorrow, and different things. You have two different schools, you have to go to court, you have to do this. Yes, we agree. I have also of the school of thought that the ruling party is dipping fingers into PDP to make it unstable. But even at that, can't we just come together and look at things objectively? So we have a long way to go, but it's still not irredeemable.
The Yorubas will say, "Ti ogiri obalanu alangba ole wogiri." If there is no crack in the wall, the lizard would not find its way into an abode. Do you have people, specific people? Because the other day Jando specifically mentioned the party chairman and persons like Chief Olabode George. But aside of these people, are there other people that you consider the weak link of the PDP, either at the state or national level, that may have contributed or are still contributing to the state of the PDP right now?
Do I need to tell you that the way Wike is going is working against the PDP? Do I need to tell anybody that? The jury is out there. Look at Samaya. Look, the jury is out. Look at everybody. PDP is no more an attractive proposition the way it is now. We need to sit down. The governors must take the lead. They must take the lead and wipe this place, the table clean. This table is too dirty. They must sit down. They must what's it called? They must leave out their individual ambition. It is individual ambitions that is the major problem. I just heard now that what's it called? People that are supposed to come into PDP are going into other parties. I just heard this morning that Malam Rufai has gone to SDP. And a lot of people are leaving PDP. When last did you hear somebody come into PDP? It's becoming like a pariah party. Something must be done. It's not about reconciliation. What are you reconciling? We've been reconciling since 1900, if I'm allowed to use that thing. No, we have been reconciling before James Robertson. We have been, to be candid, we've been reconciling. But you see, when we were in power, there were ways you enforce boundaries. But even if we're not in power and we still want to get to power, then we should be able to enforce boundaries.
Is it fair to say that the PDP is not a party designed to be in the opposition, that it can only manage its issues if it is in power?
Well, maybe I might not say that 100%, but yeah, we are behaving like spoiled children. You know, all we keep doing is to cry, yeah, oh, they've taken this, they've taken that. What are we doing, firstly, to ensure that these things are not taken? Secondly, what are we doing to ensure that these things are getting, the ones taken are getting back? It's not enough to cry. It's not enough to make noise on the social media. Have we abandoned our people at the grassroots? What is the what is the level of discipline in the party? So that when you know if you do something, look, almost everybody, if there are no boundary enforcement, if you wake up one day, you can say, I want to go to CBN and go and take some dollars. Well, do you know why you will not go there? Because, one, you will probably find it difficult to get into it. And if you get into it, to take it, you know that you will be punished. So it's because of the punishment. And because you know that when you do it, you will be punished. Not that it is written that you will be punished. So it is written in our constitution, but are people doing it? Our guy, Tommy Kimmy,
yes,
leads the disciplinary committee. They need to sit tight. They need to take the bull by the hand. Not the kangaroo disciplinary committee that has been used to witch hunt, or that has been used to just take some people away from the party. No.
Honorable Adams, you've mentioned Sam Anyanwu Wike at the national level. The PDP in Lagos State has tried and failed for about 25 years to gain any form of power. Who do you think has been the major stumbling block in Lagos State?
Well, it's not obvious. Look, is it about major stumbling block? It's obvious. Look, if I were to be candid, if I were to be chief body judge, I'll just go home. Period. Not because I have failed, but because I am not talking now because chief body judge is actually my uncle. Because I cannot sit down and having tried, having led people all this while, and it is not working. And the people are coming up against me. If you read the kind of insults people pass on chief body judge, on the platform, on PDP platforms, Lagos State, I look at it and look, what? How has it gotten into this? How has it gotten into this? How? Some people that were not born when Chief Body Judge was the governor of Ondo State, they just wake up one day and pass insults. Curses. And then I was like, I mean, hey.
Is Chief Body Judge overbearing? Or is he, is he being sponsored by an external figure to keep PDP as it is, or where it is today? Or do you think it is simply just his a lack of political strategy, or he's just been overbearing? Which one of it do you think has been his own major flaw here?
I think it's more about his military background. I think I cannot pinpoint to, because I will not say what I cannot prove. I cannot pinpoint to any external influence, sort of. Well, I think is, uncle is a military man. In military, the idea is that do this and it has to be done. So when you now have people, really younger people that will probably not have met you in the military, and you're now confronting you, then the natural thing for military men is to react. And that's not the way it is in politics. So that's the thing. I can remember clearly, I think it was in 2000 or something, we were in Chief Body Judge's house, and one miscreant like that, not in his house in Italy, it's actually his family house because we come from the same area on Lagos Island. So one miscreant just came out like that. Like, I am sorry, I'm going to use this set of words to permit me. He said, Chief Body Judge was shocked. I'm sure he has never heard that kind of a statement, especially directed at him. It was like, he looked at everybody, General Ariwaju was there. I think Monkul Iskeru, people. The person banged the table right up there. I think it was the window pane or something. Right? See what they say? In my father's house, that was a shock to him. So it's not about, I'm not sure it's about him being sponsored by external people, but I think it's more about his military background. It's the fact that if I want something, I must get it. So I think that's more of it than the other one.
As long as Oloyebode George continues to exert that level of influence within the PDP, you don't see the party going anywhere. That is what it is. Let me also add that to a quote, a statement credited to you where you said that the PDP should forget about 2027 if discipline is not enforced. Is that still your position?
Without the shadow of a doubt. Look, let me tell you, let me take you back a bit. In 2015, some set of people engaged in anti-party activities. I'm talking about Lagos. I'm being specific about Lagos now. Because, okay, not even, let me tell you, in 2015, yes. In 2019, some people also, including people in authority in Lagos in terms of our party, went out to say, don't vote for Jimmy Agbade because Jimmy Agbade didn't accept this, didn't accept that. Jimmy Agbade scored, in 2015 we scored I think 600 and something thousand votes. I was the director of organization for that campaign. In 2019, another set of people came out to say we are not going to vote for Jimmy Agbade and don't vote for him. Right? I think they went to vote, they said go and vote for was it ADC or ADP, blah blah blah.
Yeah.
Jimmy Agbade from 650 something scored 200,000. In 2023, another set of people are the same. Some people also went out to say, we are not going to vote for you. Go and vote. Even the state chairman sent a message a day before the eve of the election that don't vote for the PDP. Both PDP, both Jando and the House of Assembly candidate of PDP. We all saw the result. We scored 62,000 votes. Some people are saying Jando scored 62,000 votes. No, Jando didn't score 62,000 votes. The People's Democratic Party in Lagos State scored 62,000 votes. We need to let that thing. So, because look, because the discipline has not been meted out to people that have heard, they have continued to be emboldened, and they are now so comfortable in their inadequacy to the point of if we don't do this again, if we keep repeating it in 2027, maybe we score 15,000 votes. You can imagine the Minister of Federal Capital Territory, Barrister Nyesom Wike, came to Lagos and gave out 300 million to the opposition party's wife in court.
Yeah.
During our campaign. And we'll see, some people will still keep claiming that this is a party person. Just because you say, okay, the Dando didn't support your ambition. Must I support your ambition to support the party? Have you forgotten that it's actually the party that made you? Everything. So, indiscipline is the easiest way to destroy any community.
All right.
Yes, Peter.
Honorable Adams, it's been a pleasure having this conversation with you, but I'd just like to ask you one more about Jando. I know he has said he's collapsing. He's going to collapse his political structure into a different platform. Do you have any idea where he's headed?
Well, when he's ready, he will tell the world.
But you have an idea of where he's headed. But you have an idea of where he's headed because you're a good friend to him.
Everything I've said, it's not as if Jando is simply. No, Jando is not a saint. So he needs to work on certain things too, which I've also had discussions with him. Again, his naivety as a politician, the nerve to say it the way it is, also put him into certain trouble or certain form of trouble. Yes, he needs to work on certain things if he is also going to be a successful politician.
So,
but again, whatever he has done never warranted anybody saying, I am not going to vote for the party. No way. That's not acceptable to me in any way.
So, if he decides to join the ruling All Progressives Congress, or let's say the opposition Labour Party, how will that impact Lagos PDP?
Look, I'm a Muslim, but in the Bible, I think it's in Luke or something, because I went to a Christian secondary school. In Luke, I am sure that a shepherd, a herdsman, left 99 flocks and went in pursuit of one that went missing.
Indeed.
So anybody that has the interest of PDP will not say, who is Jando, who is Adedetunmu, who is this, who is that. No, they should leave. If you're saying that, then you don't even have the interest of the party. It will impact. It will impact negatively. Even if it's just Jando, and it is not just Jando, he has his followers in the party before they left. He has his followers, his sympathizers outside the party. So definitely it's going to impact. It is going to impact negatively on the party. Anybody that says otherwise is just either out of hatred or the person is very unserious.
And if things stay the same, what would then be your own next political move?
Well, there's a thing that says we cross the bridge when we get to it. If things stay the same, we'll review our situation. But as we speak, I believe PDP can overcome the challenges it's facing.
All right. Just
but like I also want to say something.
Yeah.
Jando leaving PDP does not impact my friendship with Jando. Yes, we met in PDP, but that's not. We still chatted yesterday, or was it day before yesterday?
No, because I have to ask that question. I have to ask that question because you said the candidates you initially supported has crossed to the APC. And there are some rumors that, well, Jando may be going to the APC, even though we've not verified any of that. And that's why I had to pose that question. Perhaps we never can tell if people from APC are already making advances, towards you to also get you to join their party.
Towards me. They've always made that. So it's not going to be. You are not actually worth it as a politician if other parties are not making advances as this. That has always been happening.
Yeah.
So that has always been what I've reported.
And you are giving them consideration.
No, I'm not.
Okay. All right.
I've never done that, and I will not.
All right. Just let's have your quick take now on the drama in Lagos, the Lagos State House of Assembly. We know that at the moment we have clarity that Right Honorable Mudashiru Obasa is in charge. But the drama behind his removal, the resignation of Right Honorable Mojisola Miranda, and the re-election of Right Honorable Mudashiru Obasa has put the Lagos State political scene, into another national spotlight with several commentaries on it. So I'd like to know, what does this tell you about politics in Lagos State? And perhaps point us towards 2027, if there is any.
To the blind, they can see. To the deaf, they can hear that the APC is a one-man party. A one-man party. If you don't align with the interest of that man, you cannot survive. And that is what is happening, what is playing out.
Who's the one man? Yeah.
Well, it's the president, Bola Ahmed Tinubu, who is the one man again. He owns the party now, Abba. Look, the issue is this. The Miranda, the Right Honorable Modizola Miranda, didn't follow didn't follow what they call protocol. Probably. Protocol, and the only protocol there is Mr. President. Whether you are talking about DAC or whatever, no, that's not the issue. Now, the problem is that opposition is not united. If we had a strong opposition in Lagos, the person will lose Lagos easily in 2027. So the opposition must go and get their acts together. The drama is not just nauseating, it's embarrassing to those of us that are Lagosians. I'm talking of the indigenous Lagosians now. It's embarrassing. Again, Modisola happens to be one of our own. You'll find out that even the core indigenous came out to support Modisola, and they were not supporting her just because she was a core indigenous. They were supporting her because when the majority sat down to say, yes, there are allegations and we are impeaching you, and some people are being influenced that, this thing, the will of the majority is not going to survive. And it didn't survive. Then that means we have a problem. So in APC, the majority will have their say, but the minority with plus one man will have its way.
And that one man, is who?
He's our president now. Do I need to keep repeating that?
No, we need to let you say that for yourself, because that's your opinion.
Yes, my opinion now. And am I not entitled to I'm entitled to my opinion as a politician. I'm entitled to my opinion as an indigenous of Lagos. So, is it not obvious?
All right.
When majority tried and said, no, this is this. And the minority said, no, we are the majority. There is majority in minority. And there's minority in majority. And this is what we have ended. Look at the shambles. Look at how we have gone on the map for all sorts of negative reasons.
Oh well.
Center of excellence.
It's been a pleasure having this conversation with you, Honorable Nee Adams. Honorable Nee Adams was previously the director of campaign and strategy for the Jandor governorship bid in 2023. He's also a former.
You see,
yes,
you are also doing like politicians who are saying Jandor scored 62,000 votes. That is not Jandor campaign, it is
the PDP
state governorship campaign.
Yes. All right. I take that correction. Honorable Nee Adams is former director of the campaign, the People's Democratic Party 2023 governorship campaign that had Honorable Olajide Adediran alias Jandor as the governorship.
From the views on the street,
we go to bed empty hunger,
to the blaring horns of a hustling city. The loudest voices of the common man got a medium to be heard.
This particular administration, they were coming unprepared.
It's not a bad thing to renovate the president's lawn.
Through top-notch programming, unbiased reportage of news, sports, business, entertainment, and cultural documentaries, Voice of the People 90.3 FM became a symbol for 21st century media. And now, a new baby is born. Voice of the People Television, VOP TV, youthful, full of vigor and penchant for excellence in the continent's media space, exposing the wrongs, applauding the rights, dissecting the news without fear or favor, through factual and accurate stories and contents.
Corruption kills three things and makes a society.
Representing the interests of the people and giving them a voice. Voice of the People TV is here to stay towards building a fair society. VOP TV, Voice of the People Television, truly a voice for the people.
In the 2025 approved budget analysis, 2025 approved budget analysis, and we're just going to go deep into what it means for us as Nigerians, how realistic it is as a budget, or how realistic is it as a fiscal instrument that will be used for the year 2025. If you don't know, budget is a civic tech space that focus on accountability and transparency. We bring forth budget analysis, public financial management data, and put it to you in the most simplest, in the most transparent, and in the most accountable form for you to engage and advocate with. Today, I will be joined by three special guests. The first is Oluseun Onibinde, the Global Director of Budget Foundation. And I have with me Viola Kwaga. He's the lead Open Government and Institutional Partnership Budget Foundation. And then I have Basil Abia, who is the co-founder, Very Africa. So I want to believe that we have all of them on, and I will just delve into it and start to ask the questions one by one. Thank you all for joining once again. On the 28th of February of 2025, President Bola Ahmed Tinubu signed in the 2025 federal government budget. And I'm sure it's something that we have all been looking forward to, especially given that it was proposed in December of 2020 with a figure of 49 trillion naira. And now we have an approved of 54.99 trillion with a revenue projection of about 41.81 trillion. And a lot of things are coming into play. How realistic is this? We're having a deficit of 13.08 trillion. We're having raising concerns as to how are we going to source the funding? How are we going to be able to manage our debt? Is it going to be sustainable for us? And all of that is just basically coming up. So today we're just going to look at how realistic it is, what are some of the issues that have come up, and how it can be addressed in a way that will benefit Nigerians. So to dive into it, I will first of all start with the Global Director Budget Foundation, Mr. Oluseun Onibinde. And I'm going straight into revenue projections that have been outlined in the budget. We have a 41.81 trillion, with a bulk from it coming from oil revenue, another bulk coming from independent revenue, and the non-oil revenue. And when we also look at some of the projections for this year, we are having oil projections at 2.06 million barrel per day, with an exchange rate of 1,500 naira per dollar. How realistic are these assumptions, given the Nigerian history of crude oil production challenges, by having different form of oil theft, different forms of external external quotas from the OPEC, different forms of exchange rate volatility, different forms of interference as to the oil production and the oil sales, and also internal interferences. How realistic do you think this oil production projections will be, and how realistic do you think is going to impact on the revenue projections that have been outlined in the 2025 budget? Over to you, sir.
Thank you so much, Dami, and I hope you can hear me well.
Yes, sir.
Thank you. I mean, so, and I'm glad that we're having these Twitter spaces to look at the 2025 budget and also to share where we think in terms of reform, in terms of what the spending bill of the government should be. And one thing Nigerians should understand is that this might be the most important budget of this administration. First, the budget is starting late. So in normal projection, you might see that this budget might be extended up to maybe June, July, June next year. Even it could be as far as December next year. And if you feel the pulse online, you see that political activity are beginning to take over just the course of democracy that we have, and now how short the span is. But most importantly, when you look at the revenues that you mentioned, it feels like a gross exaggeration. Full year revenue in Nigeria, but when we do, a significant chunk of this could have been encumbered already in terms of NMPC, signing MPC, signing different projects, this project, Eagle project, Gazelle project, and all of those projects that they have signed, where some of those oil revenue or those oil production have been pledged to some certain assets. Those elements are still there. Then we have it's been recently that we started keeping a steady place at the 1.4, 1.5 million barrels per day corridor. So when you look at that, then you know that fundamentals are. And also, if you look at it from the non-oil revenue, FIRS has like a revenue target of around 24 trillion. If you look at that, that's also exaggerated, but it's.
Sorry to cut you, sir. Like the line is breaking a bit, so wow, finding it hard to hear you properly.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Okay, let me just NMPC. So FIRS is also increasing as a huge target of around 24 trillion naira. So those are the challenges to say that this revenue is going to cause a lot of problems. And if we learn from what happened last year, not last year, in the last administration specifically, you will see that this is the same things we did. We grossly exaggerated oil revenues, we grossly exaggerated revenue lines. And when we could not meet those things, we did not, as a country, or the leadership of this country, did not adjust the revenues. They did not adjust the revenue size. They kept spending as if they had all the money. And when they could not find that money from the resource and taxes, they went borrowing. When they could not borrow, they started leaning on CBN to provide overdraft for them. And those had a cascade effect. So my challenge with this government is that it has continued the practices of the previous years. We are trying to, do a bit of monetary consolidation. So fiscal consolidation has to go alongside with it, where you are high on efficiency. But what I see with this budget is also more like another loud spending, if a big time spending. And the question would be, if that's not targeted, if that's not efficient, we will not hit those revenue targets. We will explode the deficit. We'll go borrow again, and we'll keep continuing this perpetuating cycle. Thank you.
Thank you very much, sir. One thing we can take away from that is the fact that there have been some very outrageous targets that we don't end up meeting, and it's something that we need to work on as a country. And not just spend and spend and spend when we are not meeting those targets. And I'll just go straight to Mr. Viola Kwaga. In terms of us, especially given the last couple of years, let's say 4 or 5 years, we don't make up to 7% of 70% of the projected revenue every year. And every year we make out very enormous targets for the new set of revenues that we plan to make in the coming year. How credible do you think the budget for 2025 will be given these new projections? Not just realistic anymore. How credible do you think it will be?
Thank you so much, Dami. I hope you can hear me. If you can, just give me a thumbs up. Hello, Dami,
Yes,
can you
I
hear me?
can hear you clearly.
Okay, great. Yeah, thank you so much, Basil. So the issue of budget credibility, I think, is an interesting and very significant one. The budget on its own is a spending plan, and spending plans at the national level are meant to be taken as serious as possible because the very livelihood of Nigerians depends on it. The existence of Nigeria as an entity depends on how serious a budget is taken. So when you have a spending plan that is enacted at the beginning of the year. And at the end of the year, you see the targets, you see the goals not met, and this situation repeats itself over the years. Obviously, there is a sign that the government is unable to plan accordingly. The fundamental problem, I think, with the budget missing its revenue targets is because it is not based on a cash plan that is made transparent, a cash plan that is monitored, a cash plan that is implemented. What you have is the government just projecting how much revenue it would get rather arbitrarily and enacting that in a budget. So you see the perennial problem of high projections. And why do these projections persist? Why is the government continuously, projecting budgets that it never meets? For one, it's because there are absolutely no consequences for the mismanagement of our budget system. I think Nigeria is probably one of the few countries that does not have a budget legislation. Now, a budget legislation would provide guidance as to how the revenue and expenditure targets are to be achieved. It would provide ceilings, it would provide regulation on what role the various arms of government are to play. But you see time and time again the government basically going about it as it pleases. I mean, the 2025 budget was just approved, I think late in February or early in March. So and in addition to this problem of a lack of a budget law, you also have a National Assembly that is consistently unwilling to engage with the executive on how to ensure that the revenue raising process is met and is oversighted accordingly. Yes, you can argue that in fact, if you take a look at the budget implementation reports of 2024 second quarter, you see that the FIRS, companies income tax, value added tax, I think they overshot their targets. But when you look at some of our legacy issues, like the problem in the oil sector, like the inability of Nigeria to properly diversify its revenue base, mineral resources is still not doing well enough. You see a government that simply is unwilling to engage properly with its fiscal space. So, two things: a lack of an organic budget law, the inability of the National Assembly to, provide oversight and check the executive in the way it raises its money, goes about raising its money. And three, the executive itself is unwilling to commit and hold itself to clear legislation that would force expenditure efficiency, that would force efficiency and effectiveness. So you have revenue lines that certainly can be improved. You have revenue sources that certainly can be expanded, from what they are now to great potentials that could serve the country. So you have problems of leakages on the one hand, because those leakages are monies that could be spent on more tangible, much more nationally developmentally aligned programs and projects, and those monies are frittered away. When you take a look at how the allocations for government-owned enterprises, are basically frittered away in the budget, you can see large chunks of money that should go, to spending, to capital expenditure, that is simply going out the window. So I would say that there is a poor sense of management on the part of the government regarding raising revenue, whether that be oil or non-oil. Yes, there are a few wins. Yes, CIT, VAT, I think customs revenue as at half year 2024 has done relatively well, at least compared to the half year target. But because we don't even have information on H2 2024, it's impossible for us to even really know how well these revenue projections were arrived at. And if 2024 is this bad, with four capital budgets running at the same time, it would not take a soothsayer to tell you that 2025 will likely not be any different, really. I think I'll stop there. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Mr. Kwaga. I hope you all can hear me well. If you can, please just also give me a thumbs up if you can properly hear me. Just to shed light on what he has said, because I noticed at some point he was also breaking. He had talked about us not being able to give a full assessment on reaching our revenue targets, especially because we just have the half year implementation reports as at 2024, and even the complete 2023 and those quarters of 2024 just came out of recent. So it's very difficult to ascertain how we have performed or assess how we have performed in terms of revenue projections in the last year. But however, there's also need to block out leakages, which will also now bring about the credibility of our projections in the budgets, right? So blocking out leakages, there are so many leakages in the system that do not allow us to properly document and account for the amount of revenue that we attain or we earn within the year. And just to speak to more of it, we also don't have a proper budgeting legislative process. And that will also bring us to the transparency aspect of it, which I will further ask questions on later on. But to Mr. Basil, I want to know, in terms of the aspiration to make the inflation rate a 15%, right? Dropping it from a 39.16% that we recorded in November of 2024. It simply means we're dropping it by a staggering 59% within a single year. It's something that is formidable. It's something that is very challenging. The question now will be, is it possible? And if no, what's the real question? Like, how is it possible? Or what are the things that will be put in place to make it possible? We also know that we need stronger Naira, we need bumper harvest, just like the president has said in his speech when he was presenting the... Yes, I can. Can you hear me?
Yes. Of course, as usual, the MTN wahala, but I think we can manage now.
Okay. So let me just rephrase the question again.
Yes, please.
Okay. So I was talking about the aspiration to slash the inflation rate by 15%, reducing it from the 34.16% that was recorded in November of 2024. We know that's something that is very ambitious, and it's something that we're not even sure how possible it is. But from your own point of view, first off, is how possible it is, and what are the likely influences or the pressure points that we will put in to make sure that this is possible. We know the president had said in his speech that there will be a stronger Naira, bumper harvest, and then a symphony of perfectly orchestrated monetary and fiscal policies, right? All of this will come into play to bring down the inflation. But from your own understanding or from your own perspective, how possible it is, what are the things that will be put in place to ensure this is possible? And if not, what are also the things that will make it not possible? And lastly, just to add to your question, is that will the rebasing of the GDP just done this year have any influence on achieving this? Over to you.
Yeah. Thank you, Dami. Very comprehensive questions, quite robust. I'll start first by saying that it's not possible for Nigeria to hit a 15% headline inflation rate for 2025. It's not possible, even with the rebasing of the composite price index that the MBS just carried out. As you know, of course, headline inflation right now is at 24.4%, and food inflation is at 26%. This is obviously the rebased inflation rate, and one of the reasons for these numbers are that the National Bureau of Statistics carried out a standards of living survey in 2023 that normally feeds the framework for the CPI. So you normally do a standard living survey every 3 to 4 years that gauges the state of household consumption, right? So the state of household aggregate consumption will be able to tell you the framework with which you're going to calculate for change of price level per the base year. Now, the base year obviously was switched to 2024. We also had the 2018 COICOP methodology that the MBS are deploying. And with the findings from the standards living survey, we saw that the food inflation range reduced from 51%, which was the range of the 2009 methodology, to over 40%, which is the new 2023 methodology that the MBS are using. Now, just using that logic, you can tell that there's a dilution on how food prices impact the overhead construction of headline inflation rates. And so that's, I would say, the core driver behind the rebase number. And the rebase number now is at 24%. Now, if you look at the next 9 to 10 months left for the MBS to calculate change in price level on aggregate, there's very little to nothing that shows Nigeria hitting an average of 15% on aggregate for the year 2025, mostly because you have to understand what the drivers would be. So for Nigeria to be able to hit a 15% headline inflation rate, rebased by the way, it will mean that Nigeria will have to sell crude oil at a 2 million barrels per day range, and at least $90 per barrel sold in the international Brent crude market on aggregate. So I'm even doing a further prop of the variables, because the variables before the rebasing that we did for the macroeconomic outlook for 2025, we used significantly lower numbers. But if you're now doing a rebasing and you're asking for a more ambitious number, which is 15% inflation rate, then I have to prop up the variables so that the aggregate calculations give me that. And just using that deductive knowledge, it simply means that we'll have to sell our crude oil. As you know, of course, over 80% of our earnings, foreign exchange earnings, come from crude oil exports, right? And so that's a significant chunk of how Nigeria earns, especially for its budgetary purposes. Now, outside of that, even though it has a GDP contribution of 6% or lower, the core reason why we're just going to keep depending on crude oil is because the economy is not as diversified as we think it is. And so out of all of that, you just have to continue to hope that you are pumping as much oil as possible. Now, let's not forget, there's also additional issues with the way the NMPC does financialization with our crude oil exports. And what I mean by financialization is how NMPC extracts trade financing to carry out its normal obligations as the country's quasi-national energy company. Now, just using the data from 2015 till date, the NMPC has staked over 300 million barrels of Nigeria's crude, earning close to 14 billion US dollars, or over 14 billion US dollars, for diverse forms of trade financing that they've also transmitted to the federal government for its own budgetary purposes. So that should tell you that we need to be pumping more than we pump, so that we're able to offset the losses we're going to get from the crude that we're already staking for certain finances that we have already accessed. I'll give you another example. In 2023, the federal government of Nigeria, obviously through NMPC, in tandem with the Afrexim Bank, staked, if I'm not mistaken, about 60 to 70,000 barrels per day for a 3-year range, where they'll be able to access 3.3 billion US dollars. Now, that's the nature of the financialization that the NMPC oversees. So when folks say, oh, we need to hit 1.8 million barrels per day as a target, the core reason why they're saying that is that the current 1.5 million barrels can only do so much, because there's also a significant chunk that goes into, servicing whatever crude per debt access that Nigeria currently enjoys. And so if the budget assumptions are at 2 million barrels, it probably needs to be at 2.2 million barrels per day, so that we're able to offset the losses from the amounts being staked for crude forward sales, and then be able to reach the core targets of the Naira performance, which obviously means that the inflation rate reduces. But it's not realistic. It's not also realistic for Nigeria to hit 2 million barrels per day. Probably at best case scenario, the only time we're going to be able to reach that is in 2030, when full production from some of our additional deep water sites start to produce. So, for instance, the Bonga Northwest, the Ubem shallow water, and the new shallow water that has now been discovered. I don't know how much that's going to take. All of these shallow water projects typically would give Nigeria additional 100,000 barrels per day or more. So if you're doing 100 to 150 barrels per day and you're adding like 4 of those projects, then do the math. Most times they take 3 to 4 years for full production to maximize. So once you're able to do that, it means that at current 1.5 million barrels, by the way, folks at NUPRC and folks at NMPC disagree on these actual numbers, because folks at NMPC like to use condensates to add. So they like to pad, as we're talking about insertions and padding the budget. We also have a practice of insertions and padding with our data, oil production data, because you will talk to some folks in NMPC and they'll tell you Nigeria's current production not level is at 1.8 million barrels. But what they're doing is they're adding 200 to 300,000 barrels of condensates to the full crude. But just pure crude, we're doing 1.58 million barrels. And so I'm just talking about pure crude now. For Nigeria to be able to sell pure crude at the level that gets us to a 15% headline inflation rate, we would have to do over 2 million barrels per day. And I don't see that happening. No one in the upstream sector sees that happening until 2030, because most of the deep water assets will take 3 to 4 years for full development. Now, outside of that, a core component, again, just back to the drivers of inflation, aside from food prices taking a chunk of Nigeria's inflation environment, which is about 40% now using the 2023 Living Standards Survey, there's also what we call, or what folks in my space like to call, exchange rate pass-through inflation. So that's the inflation that is transmitted to Nigeria's aggregate economy from how expensive foreign exchange is, or how expensive the Naira gets, when foreign exchange gets higher. So because of that, we see a transmission of inflation to consumer goods. And as you know, of course, we have a importation appetite driven largely by a number of things. For instance, our domestic manufacturing sector depends on importations of core raw materials to be able to produce. I'll give you an example, and a typical example would be that of the pharmaceuticals. So your paracetamols that you like to buy from Emzor Pharmaceuticals, the API, that's the number one component for manufacturing any of these drugs. Nigeria doesn't manufacture any form of these APIs. And so Nigeria has to import and continuously import these APIs. And do your math, whatever the amount is to consume those APIs. If the naira gets worsened, then the cost of paracetamols and all of these drugs in that particular value chain will continue to increase. Now, we also have a very restrictive trade policy, which means that when we're importing food basics that we do not have comparative advantage in, for instance, wheat, whether you like it or not, apply the best of science, the max that Nigeria will probably do ever in its history in terms of wheat production will be 1 million metric tons and thereabout. We just are not a country that can do wheat production. And it's probably one of the things that we need to be able to learn from our peer country, South Africa, where food products that they know they do not have comparative advantage in, food products where they know that their own geolocation does not provide for them to produce en masse, they just import en masse. And it still doesn't stop them from being a net exporter in food. They made over $13 billion last year from selling food, by the way. Just wanted to put that out there. And Nigeria's non-oil exports, we did not earn more than in fact, we earned about $5.4 billion last year from non-oil exports. The core of that, of course, has to do with solid minerals exports. Of course, a lot of fertilizers, thanks to Dangote Refinery and Indorama LME. But and maybe cocoa too. I think cocoa earns us about $1 billion on average. So aside from those, most of the cool food import exports don't really earn us a lot of money. And so when there are pundits who are saying, "Oh, we need to be able to ban so and so exports," that sort of restrictive trade outlook is very dangerous, not only for our own inflationary environment, but also for our own national security imperative. So back to the point, what I'm trying to say is that if and this is just a numbers-based analysis, by the way, Nigeria has a demand of about 5 million metric tons for wheat. We love our wheat-based products. We eat a lot of pasta. We like our spaghetti and macaroni, even though it's getting more expensive by the day. Our Indomie, for instance, that most schools would have school kids want to eat at least once a day, is based on durum wheat that we import mostly from the US or from Ukraine or Russia, that particular grain basket. Now, moving forward, there are other products that we also love to produce. Our biscuits, our bread, you know how much we eat a lot of bread in Nigeria. So we have a huge appetite for wheat-based products. But we cannot fit in those numbers with our own local production. I think not that I think, the data from corroborated, of course, by the Federal Department of Agriculture, the US Department of Agriculture. Unfortunately, this is where we are going to get sources for most of these data products. And it helps to inform that, this is the problem with our space. We have to be able to go to the field and generate this data, and they come at a huge cost. And that's currently what my organization is currently doing. But just moving outside of that, I just want to give you a proper purview of this dynamic so you can understand why 15% headline inflation as the assumption for the 2025 budget is just not feasible. If you're doing 5 million metric tons in domestic demand and you have to be able to fit that demand, local production numbers aren't more than 350,000 metric tons of wheat. So you're having to import at least 4.8 or 4.75 million metric tons. And then you add a 70% import duty. It's counterintuitive because at the end of the day, while your Nigeria Customs Service earns those revenues and helps you meet whatever revenue targets you have, what you're doing is that you're allowing for a transmission of inflation because, again, let's not forget, the import duties are also they are charged based on the current performance of the naira in the foreign exchange market. So the higher or the volatile the naira is, the more expensive those export duties would be. The more expensive these export duties, the more expensive those wheat imports would be. So just using the wheat numbers, where I said you are importing at least 4.8 million metric tons, and they are tied towards the very expensive foreign exchange, that basically means that food inflation at some point, while it is currently in an inflection period, would reach back to a trough. And what I mean by a trough is that it will bounce back in terms of the hikes, especially when there's peak demand. And there's peak demand for this wheat-based product around the rainy season, because that's when a lot of cultivation is being carried out. Now, I just conclude by saying that there's another important dynamic to the performance of the naira, and the performance of the naira is not only in the pumping of the oil that we need to do, the pumping of the crude oil levels that we need to reach, but also in the value of the crude oil that is being sold. And as I speak to you, Brent crude in the global energy market is at $69, $69.89, basically $69. And the target, again, remember what I said. The target for you to be able to reach a a 15% headline inflation rate using um, all of the methodology that we currently use for outlook and forecasting, is that you would need to pump at a $90 per barrel rate. So if you're doing $60 per barrel, and then of course the budget assumption is asking or pushing for $75 per barrel at that range, it remains to be seen whether we're going to reach those targets. It also remains to be seen, and this is my last point, it also remains to be seen when the biggest influencer in the global energy market is hoping and pushing, not only hoping, but is also making modalities to ensure that more oil is drilled so that energy prices across board in his own country, and this is the Donald Trump example I'm using. If Donald Trump wants to push the drill, baby, drill mantra, and he wants energy prices across board to lower, it basically means um, crude oil production has to continue to peak. And if crude oil production is peaking and Nigeria is also pushing to leave the OPEC or not adhere to the OPEC cuts, again, it remains to be seen whether we're going to get a $75 per barrel range or higher over the year. So it's not possible for us to hit the 15% headline inflation rate this year. What's the last question? And if it's not possible, I can probably just hand over the mic. Maybe that question will come the next time I get a question on my end.
Okay, so the last question was on if the GDP rebasing will have an influence, but you had already really spoken to that.
Oh yeah. I mean, again, the rebasing of the GDP, the outcomes are just that there are more things that are being evaluated and calculated in our own, just how the size of the economy is. We're doing more calculations of the informal economy space. Then that's what the folks at the National Bureau of Statistics have told me. For those who attend all these MBS public engagements, I've seen that both Sheun and Viola attended the recent one at Uye in Abuja, here in Abuja. So I'm sure those explanations were made explicit. GDP rebasing really do not do much aside from the fact that they're adding more components from the informal sector to the formal sector.
Thank you very much, Basil. That was a very comprehensive and insightful take from you. Lots of numbers flying in, but I think one thing that stuck is the fact that we cannot achieve our 2 million barrel per day till 2030 because we're still doing a 1.5 million barrel per day. So all the talk about oil revenue being realistic or not, it just simply means that we are always going to meet a dead end trying to meet a 2 million barrel per day, except we're doing that $90 per barrel. Another thing I took very importantly from you is how um, we have different influences on the inflation rate of Nigeria, especially in terms of how expensive the naira gets, importation appetite of people, the restriction in terms of trade policies. If we are not um, if we are not using our comparative advantage in terms of, especially in terms of food items, the restrictions on trade policies should be limited so that we are not, and this is me not trying to quote you word for word, I hope I'm not getting it wrong, so that we are not, at the end of the day, increasing inflation on on imports imported materials such as wheat because of how high we have made our import duties. Um, Last thing you mentioned about the GDP rebasing is basically how the government is including more social sectors into the economy. However, this does not have so much of an impact on the inflation rates as we are made to believe. Thank you so much for that. Mr. Viola Kwaga, just over to you so that we don't spend so much time. And to the audience, we are analyzing the 2025 approved budget. And my guests are Mr. Viola Kwaga, who is the lead open budget, Open Government and Institutional Partnership Budget Foundation. I have Mr. Oluseun Onibinde, who is the Global Director, Budget Foundation, and I have Mr. Basil Abia, who is the co-founder, Verif Africa. So Mr. Viola Kwaga, we have a deficit of 13.08 trillion, which is about 31% of the total revenue, or the total expenditure that we are looking at for 2025. We all know that yes, there's some borrowing that will be in the financing gap that the government has projected. But in your own perspective or in your own thoughts, how do you think the government can achieve this or cover this deficit without having to excessively borrow? Because we have already overshot ourselves in terms of borrowing and all of that. Our total public debt has gone over 160 something trillion naira, which is extremely high, right? So, how are we going to finance this gap without excessively borrowing and ensuring that our debt obligations do not crowd out all the critical investments and infrastructural economic development that have been stated out in the budget? Over
Thank
to
you
you,
so
Mr.
much.
Kwame.
Yeah, thank you so much, Jami. I think the answer has been quite lucidly put forward by Mr. Basil. I think there has to be some form of ramping up by like times 10, what we are doing already, because closing that deficit gap would basically require us to do twice as well as we are doing at the moment. And, to a very large extent, we're even struggling to hit the revenue targets that we have set for ourselves. I mean, the federal government inflows as at H1 2024 are, for retained revenues, and I'm not even adding GOEs, is about 8 trillion. So for us to cover that deficit of 13 trillion, would have to do at least twice, what we are doing. And this really speaks to the problem of deficit finance that governments around the world tend to exercise a bit too much. But yes, so again, the conversation will go to ramping up capacity in the crude oil extraction process. And, not to get too technical, but this would have to translate to modifying processes where if the Nigerian federal government is not behind this, it is putting private sector firms in place that can provide some form of tax revenue. And that's really what, this conversation around improving the legislation around taxation, I think, is about. This administration rightfully has understood that there needs to be some form of reimagining of how taxes form a core part of non-oil revenue, and that gradual decoupling of the Nigerian state away from dependence on oil revenues. But this would also require huge investments in terms of infrastructure, because if you are thinking about improving the tax regime, you also have to simultaneously think about improving market conditions. Far too often, sometimes in the policy space, we tend to focus a lot on the supply side issues. That's the governance in the government. But there also has to be some form of improvement in terms of what the economy can do for businesses. And I mean, if you look at what small and medium enterprises contribute to the gross domestic product of our peer countries, Kenya, South Africa, Egypt, you see an upwards of 70 to 80% of what SMEs sorry, you see huge contributions from SMEs to the GDPs of these countries. And that really needs to be the conversation we have in Nigeria. Fortunately, the World Bank Ease of Doing Business initiative, the SABRE program, is in full swing. And a lot of states in the country are keying in and working around how they can improve their bureaucracy. because really the civil servants are the ones that will drive these reforms and make it easy for businesses to register and ensure that the drivers of the economy, the structure upon which economies, productive economies are built, having easy access to land, having easy access to justice and a court system, having cheap access to credit, having simplified and cheap access to energy. These are things that need to be put in place before Nigeria can even think about taxing its way, into improved revenues and closing that deficit gap. But the usual suspects are what we'll continue to address: the revenue leakages, one, and then improving productivity, I think, is a key factor that would surely create a set of conditions that would gradually feed into themselves. Once this tax legislation is passed, how can they have information on weather conditions, and all of these things? This is just for agric alone. So there's a very, very serious conversation that administrators at both the federal, state, and local government levels need to have regarding their fiscal regime, the fiscal framework of taxation, and the amount of, will I say, the focus that they have put into providing the basic hard infrastructures, the energies, the road transport networks, and other allied transport networks, and also the soft infrastructure, the access to justice, and access to cheap credit. So there, again, there's a conversation around the monetary policy regime. So when you look at the stance of the central bank, when you look at the central bank's oversight interventions for like the development banks and the banks that are focused on providing credits to the agri sector, the Bank of Industry, what is that regime like? And how effective have the disbursements from these banks been? There was some bit of chatter around the National Agricultural Insurance, the insurance outfit of the federal government. And I think I read a paper once where, there was some empirical analysis regarding the impacts of the bank. And, it was not major, but it was significant to the point where, this is the type of research, this is the type of work that the government should look into to expand. One critical problem, again, I'm going back to agriculture, forgive me, but one critical problem that producers of food have is having the requisite insurance, because you're talking about planting crops that could be subject to pests, disease, to blights, freak weather conditions, and etc. So around agriculture alone, and I'm speaking about that as a potential source of revenue, these are the kinds of conversations, the depth of conversations that the government needs to have at all levels. I'm not particularly clear with how well the government has implemented its agricultural policy. I know they're trying to focus on providing irrigation services, and there was talk about importing tractors. But time and time again, what we hear is rhetoric from government officials and absolutely no proof. It's interesting that it's very easy for government officials to talk about their successes, but when it's time to show actual results, which feeds into the monitoring and evaluation conversation, you do not see those government officials providing any form of tangible evidence. So there are several conversations, wrapped around other conversations that need to be had in terms of the way the government does government and, how it goes about measuring success. I think I'll stop here for now. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Kwaga. I think one thing I had also picked from your conversation is the fact that we also need to move away from the supply side issues. Yes, those are very tangible issues as to how much we're able to meet up with the budget, but then focusing on demand side issues as well as MSMEs, businesses in general, improving the business environment, ensuring that the business environment is enabled to be able to meet up to certain targets and certain expectations is something that can take us out of these financing gaps and excessive borrowings which we find ourselves. I'm just going to go to Mr. Sheung and ask the question on perception from the Nigerians. A lot of Nigerians view the budget as disconnected from their daily struggles, and many times we can't even align it to what the rising poverty rates are, or we can't align it to what the cost of living is. And just in your view, can you explain how this is, or do you agree to this perception from people? And then what concrete steps can the government take to ensure that the budget translates into tangible benefits for citizens, particularly through their social protection programs, job creation, economic empowerment initiatives, which are supposed to cushion vulnerable populations, and as well as improve on economic hardships? And I think one more question I'll add to your question would be on the debt servicing, which is the 13.4 trillion out of the 54.99 trillion that we have this year. What are going to be the trade-offs? Because we definitely know that if we have that percentage of expense going to just debt servicing, there will be certain trade-offs in terms of infrastructure and social programs. So what are these trade-offs, potential trade-offs, going to be? Over to you, sir.
So for the election, for the budget, number one is that I think a lot of Nigerians are going through a difficult time in this period. And I think what most Nigerians want to see is that their burdens be eased. They want to ensure that a big problem. Significant issue with food inflation. So it's also so to go government to focus on food inflation as much as possible.
Hello, sir. If you can hear me, your line is breaking a bit.
Oh, okay. I was saying that one of the things the government can do is to communicate its policies. There has to be a communication of policies as much as possible. There's so many flip-flop of policies in this administration as much as possible. Things are changing too quickly, and the citizens are not being able to get that going.
Yes.
Yeah.
Definitely.
Okay, so I think he has dropped off, probably due to network issues. So Mr. Basil, I'll come back to you before Mr. Sean can come in again. So still on the inflation question, it's just mostly on potential risks of inflation and exchange rate volatility on the economy. What we know that many times there's always, oh, we want to increase interest rates, we want to do some monetary and fiscal policy measures that governments can employ to curb the inflation rate. But many times we don't see that working, or we don't see the effects. Most times we even just see that it's increasing and increasing and increasing. How do you think the government can ensure that the 2025 budget is insulated enough to prevent it from having any form of adverse effect of price and exchange rate fluctuations? We know this is slightly impossible, but from your perspective, from your analysis that you've done, what do you think on this?
This is a very tough question. It's almost hard to say what needs to be done. I think first and foremost, coordination is the first phrase that gets in my head. There needs to be a lot more coordination from both the fiscal as well as the monetary side. We've seen, in terms of comments, both the Minister of Finance as well as the Governor, Cardoso, mentioned that they're doing as much as possible to have some form of coordination in that sense. But only having that coordination from the federal, while the state governors do next to nothing, is, unacceptable, and it's not going to yield the required results. So, if we want to prevent an inflationary outcome from just the release of these budgetary monies into the macro economy, we're going to have to get the governors under some form of coordination circle. I don't know what arrangements that are possible in that regard, but I think using historical precedents, it's very easy for Abuja to galvanize commissioners of finance from all the 36 states and whoever is leading finance in the FCDA under one roof, and have some form of desired outcomes listed, and one of those desired outcomes ensure that whatever is expended mostly for capital projects, these state governments actually execute. And if you execute a chunk of what is expended or set aside for capital projects, what you see is budget implementation numbers increase. On average, if you study implementation reports from 2010 till date, on average, or if you just speak to folks who are in this business, including folks that I've worked at budget for the last 5 years, they'll tell you the average rate for budget implementation success is 50% or thereabout. So we're not getting the 100% range. Obviously, we're not going to get that. But if we're not showing up at 70% or more, and our state governments are not showing up at 70% or more, what that basically yields from deductive analysis is that a chunk of that, gets stolen or misappropriated and converted to dollars in the BDCs. And you know what happens when there's a huge demand for dollars in the BDCs for conversions? It basically has its own indirect distortion of the performance of the naira and the foreign exchange. And when that happens, there's also a massive capital flight. On average, just using the data that I am aware of, we have 20 billion US dollars in capital flight from sub-Saharan Africa yearly. And that capital flight
is fully on the record. It's being live streamed, so welcome to you. Those of you who are on our Zoom platform, but also on Facebook Live. There is also media in the room. I'm delighted to be chairing today Mr. Bola Ahmed Tinubu. Welcome back to Chatham House. As you know, Mr. Tinubu is no stranger to this institute. In July 2011, he was here talking about democracy in Nigeria and the rebirth of opposition. He's now back representing Party of Government of Nigeria. So you can see the evolution that has taken place. Some of you in the room I know. I met last time around 2015 when the now President Buhari came to Chatham House. Mr. Tinubu was also part of that delegation. This is the first of a series of meetings that we're doing at Chatham House in the run-up to Nigeria's 2023 elections. In April this year, we had the Right Honourable Femi Gbajabiamila, Speaker of the Representatives. Gbajabiamila. He spoke at Chatham House on Nigeria's electoral system. And I think some of you will be pleased to know that on the 17th of January next year, 2023, Chatham House will host an event with the INEC chairman, Professor Yakubu. So please, if you're interested, do register and watch that. We have invitations out to 3 other presidential candidates for this election in Nigeria. So Atiku Abubakar, the candidate for the People's Democratic Party, we have issued an invitation to him. As you know, some of you, he spoke here in 2018 about Nigeria's economy. He is no stranger to Chatham House. An invitation has also been issued to Peter Obi, the leader for the Labour Party. He is also considering that invitation. And finally, we have also invited Rabio Kwankwaso, the new Nigeria's People's Party candidate. So we do want to be equitable and impartial here at this institute. And as you can understand and see, not only are we interested in the electoral processes and systems and checks and balances in Nigeria, but we also want to hear from potential Nigerian leadership. So that is our plan. It is also part of our work is looking at the mechanics of elections in Nigeria. So I was in Abuja myself in July, where we are involved with a project called Social Norms and Governance in Nigeria. We published a paper on vote selling behavior and democratic dissatisfaction in Nigeria. That's part of a long-standing project that we've partnered with Nigerian research institutes and universities. That paper is freely available online to read, so please look at the Chatham House website. So with no more ado, I just want to again welcome you all and to remind you that this meeting is fully on the record. Please do put your phones on silent. We are being live streamed. And it is, again, my greatest pleasure to be chairing this meeting with Mr. Bola Ahmed Tinubu, who is going to talk about Nigeria's 2023 elections, security, economic and foreign policy imperatives. As you know, he is governor of Lagos State, and he is the presidential candidate of APC. We're very privileged that on his international trip, this is his first stop. I understand that you have very much a valid US visa and will be going to the United States after this. So with no more ado, welcome to Chatham House, and I hand over to you, please.
Well, thank you, Alex. Distinguished ladies and gentlemen, Your Excellencies, my governors from Lagos State, from Nigeria, I thank you for coming. You are not strangers to me. There are some strangers to this democracy. I would like to begin by expressing my delight at being here once again to share my thoughts with this distinguished audience. The last time I was here in 2011, it was to share my view on the nascent formation of a Nigerian mega opposition party, the All Progressive Congress, APC. The party went on to win an historic victory against the ruling PDP in February 2015. It has been in office for almost 8 years. Over the years, Chatham House has carved a niche for itself and built a reputation as a globally admired, respected platform for intellectual engagement on different issues of contemporary interest to people around the world. Excellencies, distinguished ladies and gentlemen, it is time again for Nigeria to go to the polls to elect the next set of leaders. The national election, which will take place in the first quarter of 2023, can be considered as especially significant in Nigeria's quest for democratic consolidation. The 2023 election will be taking place on the back of almost 25 years of unbroken civilian rule. That's a record. It is a record for the country which is worth entrenching and celebrating. Every election, wherever it is held, is important to the people or entity directly concerned. It is also important to the global democracy community as well. Equally, There are also countries whose elections, on account of their weight and influence, carry wider implications beyond their immediate geographical boundaries. Nigeria is one of such countries. One area wherein the government of the All Progressive Congress, APC, distinguished itself is election management. Today, elections are more credible than ever since the return of democracy since 1999. Recent statutory engagements, enactment, and allowing the use of technology, the tools for the accreditation of voters and transmission of results, will deliver the fairest and freest election in our nation's history. This is particularly important because the next president of Nigeria, we have some tough choices to make and will not be able to do so with questionable electoral mandate. Ballot security and election violence are areas where there is cause for concern. There is an emerging trend of attacks against the personnel and infrastructure of the Independent National Electoral Commission in part of the country. At the same time, political conversations on social media have become more laced with violent rhetoric and threats of violence, retaliation against those opposing, perceived as opposing partitions. I stand firmly against all forms of electoral violence and intimidation. Having spent most of my career in political opposition, I have long fought against electoral malpractice, any attempt to extinguish the legitimacy of choice of voters. I will continue to do so, I promise. I hereby urge all my fellow contestants in this election to do the same. Let the sovereign will of the people decide the path of our nation. And let this election be determined by voters, making their choice freely rather than domineering intimidation and trouble some few. Indeed, there's more than a personal interest in Nigeria. Politics generally and upcoming elections in particular for several reasons. For one, as Africa's most populous country and the continent's largest economy, it is generally acknowledged that fortunes of the African continent and indeed the Black race is tied directly to the health of Nigeria. Also, the Nigerian elections of 2023 are coming up at a time when the country's immediate geographical neighborhood of West Africa and Central Africa is undergoing serious political turmoil that has manifested itself in the incursion of the military to power in a number of countries. In spite of legitimate concerns being expressed by observers, Nigerians are resolutely committed to democracy, regardless of their political differences. At the best of times, and with reference to its foreign policy orientation since independence in 1960, and since the end of its civil war in 1970, Nigeria has always crafted its domestic national security and economic development policies with some strategic foreign policy imperatives in mind. There is a close connection between domestic development and national security. On one hand, on the hand to prosper at home in peace and stability, Nigeria needs to uphold its national security, unity, territorial integrity, sovereign independence, and safety, as well as well-being of its people. On the other hand, to secure itself, Nigeria not only requires to build and enhance the capacity of its armed forces, but also the welfare and well-being of its citizens. Though a commitment to the promotion of human security, the country has attempted through government and other successive governments interface national security and economic development as two sides of the same coin, focusing equally on food sufficiency and sustainable development. Nigeria shares direct land borders with 4 African countries, with whose people Nigeria also share historical and cultural affinities. This effectively means that the relationship between Nigeria and its immediate neighbors is such that it's more than just a geographical expression. To be fully secured at home, Nigeria has always believed it must be the brother's keeper. It was out of this understanding that African Premier Regional Economic Community, the ECOWAS, was established in 1975. Uniquely, ECOWAS had embedded in its mandate the promotion of regional economic integration as good in its own right, and in addition, understood sub-regional peace and security. I am convinced, as I am sure of most of us are, that the broad principle that enabled successive Nigerian government to interface development and security and established an organic link between the national security and economic development with regional peace and prosperity is both impeccable and remains relevant. It is an approach which I commit myself to upholding and advancing. I promise you. The challenges which have manifested themselves with regard to our national and regional development and security trajectories are very well known to all of us here. Radical extremist violence, terrorism, banditry, kidnapping, human trafficking, trafficking in weapons, trafficking in drugs, climate change, resource-driven conflicts, etc., etc. Mostly manifesting initially in a national problem. These challenges evolved over time into transborder and multinational challenges. As a people, we are still counting the cost of challenges which different and armed criminals groups are posing to Nigeria and regional development. We know thousands of lives have been lost and continue to be wasted. we know that various infrastructure assets built at a huge cost have been destroyed in deliberate act of reckless vandalism. We see the thousands of people who have been internally displaced at home or forced into refugee camps abroad. With farming activities disrupted, we have seen shortages of food items and food price inflation that are further undermining human security. I can go on and on in enumerating the costs that have been and are still being inflicted on mass of the people by the crisis of insecurity. To respond meaningfully to this content and to redress the many indications arising from them, we must begin by reminding ourselves of the old dictum: foreign policy is but a continuation of domestic policy. As a first step, we must recalibrate domestic policy in order to revamp the foundation on which our need to pursue human security rests. At one level, this will mean the pursuit with renewed vigor of growth-promoting employment creating and poverty eradication policies at home, as outlined in my renewed Hope 23. That is the action plan for a better Nigeria as adopted by my political party. The present administration has invested heavily in agriculture, providing loans and expanding the country's total area of cultivated land. We will build on this, but our focus will be on using technology and expertise to accelerate growth and development by providing the critical infrastructure necessary to achieve the commodity transformation in the agricultural value chain. Roads, rail, access to ports, storage and infrastructure are what we require to radically transform the agricultural sector and increase its value to the nation. Provided this be the area of our focus so that the full potential of our agroeconomy can be achieved and we can reap the benefits in jobs, improved economy, opportunities, and increased prosperity. Fixing the perennial redo of energy supply is another priority. There's no version of the world where Nigerians' ambition for self can be achieved without solving the problem of how to provide energy to homes and businesses across the country. It is time to recognize that the centralized approach to energy policy infrastructure is not an optimal arrangement, and it is unlikely to improve by mere tinkering around the sites. The federal government, as regulator and operator and the price fixer, is a broken model. We are sure to fix this, and we are determined to do so, I promise you. We have privatized the power distribution in Nigeria and generation to a certain degree. What we need to do going forward is to improve the enabling environment and further reform the legal regulatory framework to attract more private investment in the sector, as we have experienced in the telecom industry. My belief that the private sector is the engine of economic progress is evident and documented. However, fundamental flaws with the basic design of our national economy impede the private sector from playing the role it ought to and adding the value it is capable of doing. In this instance, the government must act as a catalyst. We shall do this on all fronts. We will address the conflict between monetary and fiscal policies. Budgeting will be based upon the projected spending level needed to push the real annual growth rate above 7%. We will reduce the unemployment rate so that we can double the economy in 10 years. At another level, we must learn to make foreign policy work better for our domestic, social, economic, and political priorities. To do so, our foreign policy apparatus will need to be renewed to take full advantage of global initiatives and processes that work for us and tally with our domestic priorities. In this instance, I applaud the outcome of the COP27 that recently ended in Egypt, in acknowledging the legitimate claim of Global South on climate action, in accepting adaptation and energy transition principles, including the treatment of gas as a transition fuel. We work more on this. We will work to accelerate investment in gas production beyond what we do nationally. We must also become much bolder as Africans in our effort at regional and continental integration and security. In this regard, we are fully committed to the African Union's Agenda 2063 for continental transformation. Amidst the changes taking place in the global order, the primary duty of leadership in Nigeria, and I dare say, that the Nigerian people will go to the polls in a few short months and give me their mandate. I'm ready to lead and govern the country. I will return here to interact with you when the elections are over. I will come, not with a long list of priorities for the future, but with a plan for the collaboration in the best interests of the country. I love the country I love and dedicate myself to for a lifetime. I hope you will receive me then as gracious as you have today. Nigeria is part of the global community, ready to accelerate its growth and committed to democracy, freedom, and understanding around the world. When we stick to it, democracy is not easy. to manage, to promote. We have seen challenges around and across the world, but we are up to the task. Thank you.
Please, 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 please. We can sit down. Hello.
Patrick Smith from Africa Confidential. Patrick Smith from Africa Confidential. Mr. Governor, welcome to London. This week, the Central Bank of Nigeria tweeted that the NNPC has not remitted 1 kobo of oil revenues in the past 6 months, at a time when Brent crude, I think, is above 80 a barrel, heading upwards. Some would say something is going badly wrong with NNPC. Some would blame it on the organized theft of Nigeria's oil, as much as 400,000 barrels a day, by colluding local and international companies and rogue officers in the security services. What is your solution to this very pressing problem?
Thank you very much. As you remember, Chatham House produced a report some years ago, and your current president described it about blood oil when he was here, President Buhari. So the lady just there, please, yes, you, yeah, madam, please go ahead. Second question.
Right, can I sit or stand?
Stand up, then people can see you, please.
Right, good afternoon all. Your Excellency, wonderful. The question I wanted to ask, you have touched on briefly. My name, first of all, is Baroness Tinuke Davis Kensington. I'm a Nigerian. You've touched on security, very important issue in Nigeria, but you've not told us how you're going to manage this. Would like you to tell us how you will manage security in Nigeria. And second part of my question, there's loads of kidnapping of women and girls in Nigeria, rape of our young children in Nigeria. Can you tell us, Your Excellency, how this will be managed? Thank you.
Thank you very much for being very precise. Mr. Tanumba, we had many questions coming in live stream about how you're going to combat terrorism and violence against women, including from Bolupi Omosori. So the gentleman right here on the corner, yes, you, sir. There's a microphone there. Please go ahead. Please be no long speech. We don't have time. So put your phone down. You're an intelligent gentleman. I know you can ask it straight.
Well, my name is Odiana Dominic Matthew. Thank you, Asiwaju Bola Tinubu, for taking this opportunity to come and speak to us. You may know that I was one of your beneficiaries, even though I grew up in Lagos, but I was never a native, but I was granted the opportunity to work in Lagos State, even though I was from a different state. So that, tells me about how your policy is likely to be. But my question is this, because having worked for 10 years, there as a social development worker and youth worker during your administration in Lagos State, before coming here to qualify as a solicitor, practicing here in the UK, I'm more concerned about the young people. What program do you have for our young people? As you know, most political parties benefit from they benefit from the goodwill of young people. And so have you got plans, that will generate training, appointments,
thank you,
and also job security?
Okay, thank you so much. So what are your plans for youth, young people? If you would like to answer the questions, Mr. Tanumbu. Please, if we can keep quiet for one conversation here. Thank you. Go ahead.
Let me once demonstrate here. One of those philosophers I wanted doctrine that I believe firmly in is teamship, unbreakable team. To demonstrate that, I will choose the first question, assign it to Dele Alake.
Okay.
And the second question, assigned to Nasiru Rufai. And third question, assigned to Ben Ayade.
All right, so can we have microphone coming in the front? And the first question is about blood oil, oil. There, this gentleman. Yeah, El Rufai, I can see him. Yeah. Please go ahead.
Security Nasiru Rufai.
Yes, thank you very much for that. Now, the issue of oil theft in Nigeria is as deep-seated, and it's been long-standing. It's been there. It's not a new development, as we all know. It's been there for decades, and then we discover the various dimensions daily. Now, the incoming administration, by the grace of God, of Bola Ahmed Tinubu, has devised some novelties in terms of strategies. First of all, to combat oil theft is tied to the security situation of Nigeria. Now, the questioner has linked it with connivance with the security agencies. Now, the Bola Ahmed Tinubu administration has a three-pronged approach to this. In terms of regenerating, revamping, and recalibrating the security equipment, technology. That's one. The human angle, in terms of the size of the security too. Today, we have over 200 million people, and there's no way the current strength of our security agencies can adequately cope with the gargantuan and enormous problems of security, securing lives and property. So the personnel of all the security or coercive agencies will be increased to cope with the large population of Nigeria. That's another dimension. The third dimension is really employing state-of-the-art technology like drones. We know today that there is, in terms of kidnapping, in terms of even identify the oil theft and the oil pipelines, the illegal pipelines that have been rigged, that have been embedded in the ground for years. You cannot but employ technology like drones to pinpoint the actual spots where these things are. And this has already started. The current administration actually is making very good strides in this respect. They've been unearthing and discovering and arresting, apprehending the culprits in charge of what. So this will be intensified. It will continue and actually be taken to a higher level, such that in the first 6 months of the Bola Ahmed Tinubu administration, oil theft would not only be reduced tremendously, the goal is to stop it in its entirety. I think that's all.
Excuse me. That does not mean a departure from the present administration. The classification, a theft and a receiver exists. So you have to classify the receiver as taking blood money.
Governor El Rufai, please go ahead.
Your Excellencies, my friend, Mr. Alex Vines, ladies and gentlemen. Security has been a big issue in Nigeria in the last few years, and that has affected not only rural economies, but agricultural production, commerce, and everything else. The Bola Tinubu administration will address these challenges or whatever remains of it after the efforts of this administration in at least 3 ways. First, policing. Nigeria has about 300,000 a population of over 200 million. We need at least twice that number. That will be achieved by amending the constitution so that policing can be at federal, state, and even at community level. With increased security footprint, there will be less and less of criminal activity. The second step is to look at our armed forces and security architecture. Nigerian armed forces are not more than 200,000 in size, the Army, Navy, the Air Force. While some countries are even looking at a space military, we are struggling with just less than 200,000 members of the armed forces for a country with a population of 200 million plus. The numbers, the equipment, the skills, and the training of the armed forces will be scaled up, will be increased rapidly to meet the asymmetric nature of the security challenges that we face. Because today, the armed forces are not fighting with other countries, they are fighting with non-state actors. And the doctrine, the training, the numbers must change. And the Bola Tinubu administration already has a blueprint which is embedded in our action plan to address this. We'll scale up the numbers of the armed forces, we'll ramp up not only the numbers, but the training and equipment. In Nigeria, in 1967, the total size of the Nigerian army was only 10,000. Because of the civil war, within a year, we ramped it up to 250,000. So it can be done. And what we are facing in Nigeria today, banditry, terrorism, separatism, and oil theft requires a new approach towards security, enhancing the numbers, providing enhanced technology, and collaborating with the rest of the world to ensure that our country is not only internally safe, but not a threat to our neighbors. Thirdly, the issue of proliferation of small arms. Following the collapse of Libya due to no fault of ours, will have to be addressed through collaboration with countries like Mali, Niger, Sudan, and Chad, and so on and so forth. This we have already started, but this will be deepened and broadened under the leadership of a new security team under the Bola Ahmed Tinubu administration by the special grace of God. Thank you.
Thank you. We have a third question on education and youth, of which I have, we have got about 30 questions on this that have come in, including from Mariam Haruna. So Mr. Tanumba, maybe you'd like to answer that question.
I would love to do so. Youths are part of today, but they are the greatest asset for tomorrow. We need to prepare them from now, from our all-inclusive government. The youth has been part of that. I want the governor of Lagos State to stand up. Yes, it's a youth. And it's driving the 5th largest economy in Africa today, and the transformative government of our legacy, my own personal legacy. Yes, the education system is to change. We overhaul it. Tinker with some areas, with the philosophy that no one will be left behind. There be student loan for all the students. We are going to reform the Almajiri system. We are equally going to build additional schools and recruit more teachers and train them well. And teach them the opportunity to govern. Give them that opportunity. Broadband, technology hubs, and so on and so forth. Will be established that youth can even develop technology languages on their own and make a better 21st century approach to governance in Nigeria.
Okay, we're having another round of questions. So I start with the lady there. You, yes. Please tell us who you are and keep your, no, it's the lady behind you. I'm so sorry.
Mariam Adewale, Nigerian in diaspora of over 40 years. I know we have remittances over 30 billion remitted to Nigeria from worldwide every year. And I do appreciate that the leaders, they do come every electoral cycle to speak to us in diaspora, but we can't vote. Is there any plans you have, sir, with regards to diaspora voting?
Thank you so much. Good question. So the lady just here, you, madam, yes. Please go ahead. Yes, this lady. Yeah.
Hello. Louise Doas from AFP News Agency. I cover Nigeria. I'm based in Abuja. Yeah. I have two quick questions.
No, one, please.
One? Okay. Yeah. Okay, well, my question is, what exact steps will you take in your first year in administration to reduce unemployment rate, and in which sectors will you create jobs?
Okay, so that's the second question on reducing employment. And the gentleman just there, we will be coming back another round. Yes, you, sir. Go ahead.
Excellency, John Cookson, Arise News. You spent a long time today talking about the problems that Nigeria has, but you've been an integral part of the government for the last 2 terms. Why should people vote for you? Why are you a fit and proper person to be president?
Thank you very much. Phone, please come in here. Phone, please come in here.
That's really with the greatest respect for you have that question. That's a question for the gentleman who's coming to you in January, the chairman of INEC.
Okay.
For him to answer.
Okay. Well, that's the answer then.
But definitely doesn't have an objection.
No, but
let's just have matter. It's a constitutional matter. But please, let's let Mr. Tunumbu, he's the main.
Okay, I think it was Rufai last night that mentioned that diaspora voters are entitled to voting. If you make contribution to the economy with remittances that you have been making, your right to vote should not be abrogated, but promoted. However, we are still building confidence in our democratic and voting system. INEC is still yet to assure us during this election that electronic transmission, the technology being used for accreditation, and the total vote count is reliable, dependable, and assuring a complicated element of mail-in ballots and so on.
So please. So my message is this conversation will be continued on 17th of January. We have Professor Yakubu here from INEC. Please come back and have a discussion with him. Second question, the one on economic growth and reducing unemployment. Please, sir, the microphone is just there for you.
Thank you. Good afternoon. As our presidential candidate said in his speech, his aim is to increase economic growth. He talked about getting at least 7% growth, because that in 10 years will help to double GDP growth. And the key to his policy for increasing economic growth, achieving rapid growth, is to enable the private sector to make the investments that will increase productivity, grow the economy, create the jobs, and reduce poverty. That's the trajectory. And in particular, he's going to implement both, as he mentioned, the monetary and fiscal policies that will free up the space for private investment, particularly in infrastructure, and also through the promotion of agro-allied industrial processing zones. It is in agriculture in particular where the jobs will be created that will enable not just growth, but inclusive growth that provides enough employment opportunities that will lead to reduction of poverty. So the Tinubu administration is essentially all about private sector-driven economic growth. And foreign direct investment will also be a key element of that process. That's the objective of the administration, and that's what they intend to achieve through the economic policy. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And there was the third question from Arise News on that you've served 2 terms, Mr. Tinubu, already in associated with government. Why should you be president, I guess, is the question that was asked.
I guess my name is Bola Ahmed Tinubu, and the current president is Muhammadu Buhari. And there's nowhere in the Constitution that says, a current administration cannot be a continuity in their own ways. It doesn't remove me from adaptation to my own economic philosophy and developmental program. I did it in Lagos. I converted the greatest liability threatening the environment and Lagos existence to asset of magnitude value. I've employed various hands in Lagos, whether you are from Lagos or not. I've encouraged private investment in Lagos more than any other part of the country. In fact, beating the federal government before we took over the reign of the regime. Vision, courage, and can-do attitude of an individual is self-given. And I believe I've earned that throughout the country.
So this may well be the last round of questions because the clock may defeat us. So the gentleman right at the back there, you, sir? Yes. Go ahead. First question.
Thank you. My name is Ayo. I lead a social justice charity here in the UK. I want to ask, in 2018, when Prime Minister Theresa May signed a defense partnership with Nigeria, renewed again this year, many look at that and say it has produced no benefit for people up and down Nigeria. What changes would you be looking to make to that defense partnership arrangement to make it more effective for all Nigerians?
Thank you very much. Very clear. The lady right at the back there, you, yes, please.
Thank you very much. Welcome, sir.
Can you tell us your name, please, also?
My name is Priscilla Wikbo. I'm a freelance broadcast journalist. Sir, you've spoken a great deal about what you've done in Lagos, and yes, we're very aware of it, and you're a team player because you're able to include everybody else, and we appreciate your team here today, and they're very capable, and we can see that they have the capacity and the capability. However, sir, you are running for president, and as Nigerians, we would very much like to hear from you because we believe the office of the president, if voted in, will be you and not your team per se. So on that note, sir, if I may, we haven't seen you engage with Nigerians on a one-to-one interview or at any of the live programs that has been going on. And furthermore, there are issues at the moment running with regards to your identity, with regards to your age. So I wonder if you could provide some clarity on the issues of your identity and age, and also let us know when we can engage with you one-on-one in an interview, hear from you directly as the office holder. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I'm going to take two more, one from this row, one for that, and we've finished. You, sir, there. Yeah, please, go ahead. Yeah.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen.
Can we be quiet, please?
Your Excellency, Dr. Alex, my name is Otumba Eric Ayola. I'm the Secretary of the PSA UK Progressive Solidarity for Ashiwaju. My question to you, Your Excellency, sir, is about the health sector. We know that we're suffering a great deal in Nigeria as per health. So, sir, how do you intend to do two things? One, uplift the provision of health in Nigeria. And secondly, how do we stop the brain drain of our best doctors, nurses, escaping Japa to the UK or anywhere else? Thank you.
Thank you very much. We'll take one more and that's it. We had many questions online about health also and what a Tinubu administration would do about health. So this is going to be very difficult for me. So the gentleman there, yes, you, sir. We're going to have a microphone coming to you. This is the final question. Yeah, there, please, go ahead.
Good day, ladies and gentlemen. Mr. President, my name is EJ Balangalari.
Please.
Mr. President, my name is EJ Balangalari, a member of the APC from Adamawa State. Your two opponents, Alhaji Atiku Abubakar, has prided himself as a unifier, but has failed to unify his party. And the other one, I will not mention his name, is running his campaign on religion. After May 29th, how do you intend to unify Nigeria? And what should we expect your cabinet to look like?
Thank you very much. So you have four questions there, which were, how are you going to unify Nigeria after elections? That's the final one. Health, what are your health policies for Nigeria if you become president? The other one was the lady, I forget your name. Priscilla asked about, are you going to do one-to-ones? And also there's speculation about a number of issues around yourself. I guess I've read on the internet about health and various things. People are asking questions. And then there was the final question about that the UK-Nigeria defense partnership doesn't seem to have delivered. What would you like to see a bilateral defense arrangement with the United Kingdom? How could it help Nigeria? Those were the questions.
Okay, like I would still want to adopt some of the method I did to show the team and the capacity that we have. The woman leader for APC can answer the question on the health, I believe. That personal question, I will leave it to the last contribution.
Okay, so Priscilla, get answered last of all.
Yeah.
Please go ahead.
And
Go ahead, please, on health. Let's move ahead.
and then we call on the Speaker of the House of Representatives, Gbajabi Amila, to contribute on this on the second question.
Go ahead.
Thank you very much for this opportunity. I want to very clearly state that the Asiwaju Bola Ahmed Tinubu's administration, when voted into power, is really very specific on achieving universal health coverage through certain indices, which we will be working at as a government. His Excellency has clearly stated that first, we need to fix the health system of Nigeria and improve on what is there already, providing the right environment in terms of the pay, in terms of the engagement, in terms of training of health workers, improving of the facilities, that's the infrastructure that we need to give Nigeria quality healthcare services. More importantly is the fact that we want to move into a system where we can make our primary healthcare more functional. Asiwaju Bola Ahmed Tinubu is also concerned in providing access for healthcare to everyone. He's going to do this by ensuring that he provides free healthcare for pregnant women and children under 5, and ensure that everyone has a mandatory contribution to our health insurance scheme. Beyond this, Nigeria has been more dependent on importing drugs from outside the country, vaccines from outside the country. He is going to also go into health manufacturing, where we'll produce the essential medicines that Nigerians can consume. But most importantly is the fact that he would look into the issue of brain drain and turn it around to become brain gain for Nigeria. All of us seated here, we have many doctors, many experts outside Nigeria, and that's why he's here today in the diaspora to interact with you. He would attract all of this brain down into specialist hospitals that will be built across the geopolitical zones in Nigeria. That's way we can give quality healthcare to Nigerians and equally prepare for the next pandemic if it ever happens. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. And then we had the speaker. Where is he? There he is.
In order to pronounce your name right. Go ahead.
Kabaja Mayala.
Just call me Baja, that's fine. What was the question, please?
The defense pact.
Oh, the defense pact in Nigeria.
Yeah.
Well, let me very quickly say this. Defense pacts are many. There's bilateral and there's multilateral. And it's not just the UK that has signed the defense pact to with Nigeria. I'm not sure what indices or the measurements that were used to say it has proven nothing. If that defense pact was signed in 2018, we're now in 2022. I think it will take the most ingenious person to say that there has not been a trajectory or change between what we had in 2018 in terms of flags being hoisted in their various local governments and what we have now. I think more important in terms of defense pacts, it's a defense pact with the United States and other countries, apart from the UK as well. So I call it a multilateral defense pact. We have the Leahy Act in America, which we need to look into, which actually deprives Nigeria and some other countries of utilizing armaments that are manufactured in the United States. And this is based on human rights records. But you cannot on one hand condemn terrorism, and on the other hand, make it difficult for Nigeria to get arms from those countries. It's a no-brainer. And that's what we're going to be going around in circles. So we're looking towards, and Asiwaju will be looking towards, and this is a matter that is dear to his heart, because without security, security is a bedrock. You can't actually build something on nothing. You have to secure the country first. So that's an area that this administration is looking at very, very seriously. And in terms of all the arms of government, defense sectors, communicating with themselves as opposed to acting in silos is one area that Asiwaju Bola Ahmed is looking forward to in his administration. And I just want to use this opportunity to say this. There's going to be a lot of intersection between all the candidates and their programs and their manifestos. And you're left with only one thing. When everybody's addressing the same thing and more or less saying the same thing, obviously following the lead of Ashwaju, you're left with one thing. And that's what happens all over the world. A candidate runs on his records. So we are left with a track record of all the candidates that are running. And somebody's track record is there for all to see. It's there. Some people may not want to hear about Lagos, but it is what it is. He's done it for 8 years. He continues to do it in Lagos and everywhere else that he touches. So that is all we can depend on. Not speculation I will do. You have before you a thinker and a doer. You have his records before you. Unless, of course, a candidate does not have a record to run on, or his record is not good, then you begin to character assassinate, begin to speak to personalities that are neither here nor there and obviously not true, and you avoid and run away from the issues. Let's make it about the issues. Thank you.
And finally, you do have the question from Priscilla at the back there.
Priscilla, thank you very much for the question. It's inquisitive. But at the time of birth, I was dated March 29, 1952, and the family record. I didn't think then, that day, I've determined to be or decided to be a president of the Federal Republic of Nigeria. Not even that I will go to politics. I have a very good exposure in life. My record is consistent. And the school and the university, they question, they now convinced that they wasted their money and their time. The record is there. The transcript is there. So in March 1952, I'm not claiming another father. I am Tinubu and Tinubu proper. If they want a DNA, they could as well require for one. One of them has been even accused of not being a Nigerian citizen. I didn't touch that area. Yes. Equally, it remains the same. Deloitte, Chicago State University, where I graduated, has attested to that. Now I can announce that I've received my original replacement degree certificate from them. The Deloitte trained me as an accounting firm. Mobile has attested to my record, a standing record. I got to the pinnacle of my career. And the private sector, who among them can brag about it? Now, yes, you want to wrestle with the pig, you got to live with the dirt. That's what I'm doing. I go into politics, knowing fully well that it's a muddy water. Smog will come. You will have to live with the dirt and make sure you are upright to finish the job. Thank you. Any part of it that I didn't answer? That's
one-to-one conversations.
One-to-one conversation. Yeah. Excuse me.
Please, be quiet.
Why? I see myself as a marketable individual. Want to use me to make money, and I'm saying no.
All right. Ladies and gentlemen. Thank you. Can we show the customary